Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing or mine.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 487th edition of the Boxing Asylum NUTHOUSE podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call we have Matty DiGialinardo, Ozzy Smith and Andy Patterson. Rapping Rob Kelly did turn up, strangely enough, just now, and he's disappeared in the space.
His wife found him.
I know, he was outside Aldi, Matty, apparently. Do you know what Aldi is? You ever been to Aldi?
Grocery store?
Well done, exactly. I hope he didn't leave his pram outside it like Anthony Fowler in Iceland, Matty, so hopefully he's okay.
I'm just glad that I'm keeping up here. I know your grocery stores. I know your cheap discount stores, the Poundland or Pound Town, as you called it. And then the abundance of roadside curry shacks. So I know those three things. I think I'm slightly prepared.
You do. Matty's Guide to the UK and Ireland, everybody. He's here, though, on this Sunday evening, like everybody else, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everyone listening through the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, no less. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire upcoming month of August. In fact, we're in the middle of August now, aren't we? Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. We're going to be talking a little bit of AJ later and USYK, the big rematch. Roid Rage on the Red Sea. Everybody's going to have their say. You in the chat as well can throw it in too. We'll see who's in the chat later on. We've got AB coming up next week against Omar Figueroa, and a couple of questions, comments, and anything else in between. Let's start off, first of all, they're over in the resorts world, Las Vegas, Nevada. They look like they're having a good time over there. As I often say, good crowd. That's what we like to see in boxing. Teofimo Lopez stopping Mexico's Pedro Campa in the 7th round. Once Lopez started dancing, prancing, and thrusting about, you knew it was all over for Campa. I saw it said, Matty, in some quarters the stoppage was a bit off, but I'm not a fan of the referee, Tony Weeks, but I didn't have an issue with the stoppage. I thought it was fair enough. Top Rank labelled this on the posters, Operation Takeback, which is, of course, a variation of the initial takeover. Started with Lomachenko, ended rather prematurely against Kambosos. It's early days now for this new fresh start for Lopez, up at 140 pounds. How did he look to you?
Yeah, let's get into the in-ring stuff before we get to the out-of-the-ring stuff for sure. I thought that he looked good. He was a little bit wild at times. He got it caught a few times, but there was a lot that he showed in there where you remembered why we were so high on this fighter, why it wasn't entirely shocking that he beat Lomachenko. He had the whole arsenal. He baited his opponent into counter shots. He came forward when he needed to. And somewhere around the 5th round, he started really getting his confidence. And in the 7th round, he just started pouring it on. He was dancing around. And I think that basically Weeks could see that that after the knockdown and then the shots that Campa was absorbing, and the way that he wasn't offering much as Lopez found his groove, it was time to pull the plug. Probably would have ended in the next round if it didn't end, a little bit further into that round. No big complaints about that. He just did some tremendous things in there. Caught him a few times, changing the trajectory of his punches mid-shot and turning a miss and a possible counter opportunity for his opponents into a glancing blow for himself. Just a whole lot of the good is in there. It took a while for him to be able to take his opponent down. Moving up, it's not going to be as easy as mowing some of them guys at 135, but I think he plays into a really great division. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. He's wanting big fights in the pay-per-view. I think he's going to get Barboza. We will see. The bad side of things, he's still extremely arrogant. I think they said his entourage was like 17 people or something like that, or maybe it was 47. I can't remember. I think having an entourage outside of like a half dozen is far too much. He's got some personal things going on. He doesn't see his kid as much as he'd like to see, but that also gives you a reason to fight. I think that kind of weighs you one way or the other depending on your character. But you do kind of get a little bit of that Angel Garcia vibe off of his dad. But we'll see where it goes from here. But as of right now, I'm just excited to see Teofimo Lopez back. He's a player in a stacked 140-pound division. And, before he gets that fight with Taylor, and I think Taylor's going to 147, maybe if they make that Catterall rematch, he'll be one and done. I personally want to see him against Zepeda. I think that's a great fucking fight. And I hate saying that because I like both these guys. One of them has to lose, probably Zepeda, but I think it'd be a fantastic and fun shootout.
Yeah, shout out to Angel Garcia. That's a good comparison. I actually think Teo's dad is probably worse than him, but that's maybe a discussion for another time. Andy, Matty makes some good points there, actually. The confidence, you could see it gradually building into the Teofimo Lopez of old, and all of a sudden I found myself liking that. I want to see the Teofimo Lopez of old, the guy who was crushing people. I'm not bothered about the dancing and the backflipping and that necessarily. But one thing Lopez has clearly retained is his punching power. I think he was getting his angles right. The timing was coming slowly but surely as the fight was going on. We know he can bang. He can knock people down. He can knock them out. He can change fights with the right shots. And once he started landing those heavy shots on CAMPA, who was game but outgunned, he just started working him over. And the writing was on the wall from about the 5th round, I thought.
Yeah, well, around about round 3, I picked up on the confidence part. Obviously, he was quick. He'd flash with his shots. A wee bit disappointed in CAMPA because obviously I mentioned last week that I expected the fight to maybe go the distance because I've seen this guy fight more aggressively. I think he was just maybe showing Lopez his respect, maybe appreciate the levels that he was fighting at last night. But the hand speed alone from Lopez was just, it was more than enough to do the job for him. Right hands, he was working on the left hooks and that as well. Fast uppercuts. One thing I didn't like actually as well was his the amount of times he backed off and went to the ropes. I think if he's fighting a more polished fighter, actually, and you could see this, the difference in sizes there last night. I didn't think it was overly big, but you could tell that CAMPA had rehydrated slightly bigger than what Lopez was. I think against a more polished fighter who's got faster hands, faster feet speed, and he's got a wee bit of power about him as well. We definitely had Lopez in trouble there last night. I just thought it was a bit kind of telling that he was going to the ropes. Maybe he was needing to buy time. Maybe he's wanting a wee breather or whatever, and that, but he wasn't really overexerting himself. And as you say, around about the 5th, I think it was kind of like it was becoming similar by that point. And then CAMPA's eyes badly swelled up. I think it was the left eye. Dropped round 7 early on a 2-punch combo. It was a right cross and then a kind of up jab. And then he just kind of like, obviously for that point he's peckers up, he's showboating, and eventually he's forced Tony Weeks to stop the fight after a 9-punch unanswered assault, I think it was. So fair play to him. But again, at the end of the day, it's a feeling fight at the weight. I don't think, regardless of what he's done at lightweight just now, I don't think he's deserving to step into a big fight straight away. I think he needs to obviously stay round about what he's fighting at the minute. No world titles. I think he needs to be having another check at this weight. I think Barboza would be a great fight for him, to be honest with you, because Barboza's, he's a very good fighter, good straight shots, decent power, very, very big for the weight. I think it would be a proper marker actually to see where Lopez is standing in this division, I think, because was it Haney's fighting in October, so that fight's not going to happen. And plus he's at 135. Garcia, we don't know what's going to happen with talks with this one. Obviously you've got the different networks involved in this. Did they mention that Lopez was back in October or December?
I didn't catch it. I listened most to it on mute on the other thing to do.
December 10th, I think it was.
Aye,
the Heisman night.
The Heisman night, aye. So it'll probably be ideal to actually try and get him some sort of kind of signature fight on that date, because there'll be millions of viewers on that TV show. But the likes of like Taylor, for example, he's got the Cattrall fight. Prograis, again, he's another one. He's only got like one fight on his resume, and everybody thinks he's elite. Cepeda, I agree with Matty, and that would be a great fight as well. But I like to see the Barbosa fight as well. So maybe Cepeda or Barbosa. But I think Cepeda no tied up with some sort of mandatory defence. Who's he meant to be fighting? Was it Ramirez? Was that fight off?
Was it Ramirez or somebody? Oh, we had this discussion the other week, didn't we?
Were they talking about him against Prograis? Was that finally?
Yeah, it's Prograis Cepeda, isn't it?
That's a fucking fight, man. That's a fucking fight.
Yeah.
I don't know, like nothing's gonna live up to the Baranchik fight, but that one also has war written all over it.
Yeah. And just to finish off, just one thing, I also agree with what Matty was saying there about his ego or his cockiness and that. It was there to see post fight, not in the ring, but afterwards, speaking to the YouTube channel guys. You know, he's mentioning like, you know, these guys don't want to fight him, and he's mentioning like Josh Taylor getting married and bringing up their personal lives, and I'm like, dude, like, your personal life isn't exactly great. Why are you bringing that up? You know, they could easily just kind of throw that back in your face. And it seems to be a bone of mental contention for Lopez, actually. Bring up his baby mama again there last night, as you mentioned, some issue about getting to see his kid. Obviously, that's going to fuck him about a little bit in that as well. So, again, just a wee bit of maturity still to kind of come for that guy as well. So other than that, mate, it was a good performance considering what he was fighting end of the day, and plus it's his first fight at the weight. The power as such is it's still decent, but it's going to be telling against the absolute bigger guys who can take shots. That if it's going to be enough to kind of like get these guys out of here, I think he can do a lot of damage. Maybe force some fights to get stopped on accumulation, punishment, swelling of the eyes, bad welts, that type of thing. But we just need to wait and see how he goes and who he actually fights come December.
Yeah, poor old Lopez. Must be hard for him not being able to see his children. Wait till the 6 weeks holiday, then you'll be seeing too much of him every day, and then you'll be fed up, Mr. Teo. Anyway, we'll move on. I think, Ozzy, on to you. There will be tougher tests than CAMPA, Pedro CAMPA, probably Arnold Barboza Jr. Andy mentioned him there. He was grinning at ringside. We saw him the other week. Seems to be putting them two together. One step at a time for me. I think Lopez needs to get back now on the straight and narrow, get active, reinsert some consistency into his career. Get him in there against Barboza on this night that they're talking about. Go toe to toe. I think he'll beat him, hopefully dispatch him. Then move on to Josh Taylor, Cepeda, Prograis, whoever the winners are of those fights, whoever's still hanging around at the weight. Let's get him back active again, Lopez. We've seen the return now, and let's just get this show on the road. Another couple of months, bang, straight out there.
It needs to happen because, let's have it right, it was the biggest travesty ever, you know, after he got that big win and he went chasing the dough as such, and it completely backfired on him, didn't it? You know, he was inactive. He got that huge win over Lomachenko, and we just never saw him for 12 months, and it was bizarre, really. And I think Bob Arum said it right, didn't he, in an interview? It's like that was when he called Mike Coppinger a prick, and Coppinger called him out on it, but he was right, and it was a travesty the way he hadn't been active and capitalised on that big win. I thought he was good last night. I thought he boxed well. I don't mind the cockiness as such because, you know, he's feeling good, and that's what he is. You know, certain fighters are like that, and I can guarantee that if he didn't display that, you know, that the cockiness, you know, where he was going square on, dropping his hands, we'd probably be saying, was that the Teofimo Lopez of what we're used to? When actually, what we saw last night, it is. I thought he went through the gears. I thought the stoppage was fair. He landed some really good shots. Yes, he did get caught, but is that because the nerves weren't necessarily there as well? And I think, you know, after 3 or 4 rounds, he probably worked the opponent out and he felt quite confident in the fact that I can't really be hurt and he's not going to beat me. So he can take those risks and, you know, sit on the ropes and maybe be willing to take a shot to land a shot. If Barboza's next, that's great. Your world champions are all taken up, aren't they? So Taylor's going to box Catterall. Ramirez has withdrawn, I think, through personal reasons. So it's Cepeda against Prograis, which is a cracker. And then I think that's pretty much... And then obviously Garcia's wanting to fight Gervonta Davis. So doesn't leave that many. If Barboza doesn't happen, I always think a perfect test for somebody would be like Victor Postal. I think that would be a really decent test for Lopez. You know what Postal is. He's solid, more than solid, to be honest. And I probably still put him at at that world level. Not saying he's a gatekeeper. I think that's disrespectful. He's better than that. But I think that'd be a good test. Otherwise, the only other one that I thought might be a bit different is the way they could maneuver him into a position. Do you remember Jeremiah Ponce, the Argentinian who blitzed Lewis Ritson and knocked him out? I think he's the IBF mandatory, but money talks, and I don't think the IBF are anywhere near calling that mandatory slot. So if Ponce can go and get a big payday, against Teofimo Lopez, and Lopez can then become a mandatory, he's instantly a problem then because he's at that mandatory slot. Whereas at the moment, he's going to be relying, on essentially big money offers to get into those positions because he doesn't have a belt. And while his name's there, he's not being active. So we've got to wait and see. But you said it right. It's good that he's got a date in the diary already. Let's hope it stays. Barboza will be a great fight. I think he'll win. I don't think he's got, the dig as such to worry Lopez as such. I don't think he can hurt him. I know like Cambosis didn't as such as well, but I think, Lopez massively underestimated him. Just to finish, I think it was his dad in that gold trackie. What a wanker he was at the end of it, just stealing the limelight, like screaming like he'd done all the work. It just annoys me. Why are trainers like that getting involved, dressed horrendously, and then just screaming in front of the camera, like lifting his arms up and tensing his arms, thinking he's class. You just think, you look at that and you just think you instantly dislike people like that and you want them to suffer. So, yeah, you now know where Lopez gets it, from his cockiness in the ring, basically. But no, overall, good performance, good display, and roll on December from where hopefully he can stay active, get a win then, and then they're looking at, potentially a date in March, for example, and stepping up the level of opponent again if one of the world champions isn't available.
Exactly. Well said, Ozzy. Des is listening from the barbecue. Shout out to Des. He says, lots of the old Teo. He can handle the top fighters. We're not sure he can handle the attention that came with it. Could be great lessons learned for Lopez. Could be Andy, but maybe not. Ozzy's picked up on a point which I was going to close out with before we went on to the undercard. It remains a point of interest for me. His father, he's clearly wired differently. We all know this. This isn't the relationship that's servicing Teofimo Jr. in the long term for me. But it's his dad, it's his trainer, it's his mentor. I can see why it wouldn't be so easy to get rid of him as what we would think. Look at his robes, had the resurrection on the back. It was all embroidered. Some vague Illuminati, dark side of the moon triangles all over it. He's using all this religious terminology in the post-fight interview. I'm not convinced his concerns have gone away. The missus is floating about in the background. He's like a coiled spring. Is this fuse ready to blow, Andy? What are the chances of these problems rearing their head once again in the future? Because unfortunately, I think the chances are pretty high.
Well, judging off previous experiences and that, obviously, I don't want to bring up his personal issues and that again. Obviously, he's been married. He's had issues with the wife. I don't know if he's got a divorce or whatever and that. But it was clearly there was some sort of issue there with the family and then marrying that girl. Apparently, they didn't go down too well. And this guy, as I say, I've heard him do interviews, and he said like this young kid standing next to him, and he's fucking this and bastard and that, just completely differently wired. I don't know if it's just like street thing or whatever and that, but Lopez has come up himself and he says, in previous training camps, he said that there were a lot of hard things to kind of deal with between him and his dad. Obviously, that's when what's the wee guy, Joey Gamache was involved in the camp at the time. And as Rob says, it was Gamache really kind of came up with the kind of game plan in order to try and beat Lomachenko. But there was just, I believe there's a whole raft of shit stuff going on with him. And I can imagine that it would be really easy to get in an argument with him, the dad, so to speak. So going forward, I like to see him kind of go into kind of more technical stuff because it's clear the kid has got skills. I just don't think he's developing, quick enough. And the other thing is, as Ozzy mentioned as well, he got this kind of, this grandeur about chasing the money. You could say he got fucked over with the Triller deal. He kind of sat on that for like over a year, trying to get the deal done there. But he's only fought once now. Was it in 22 months? That's not good enough for a guy who's meant to be entering his physical peak with 25, 26 at this point. His dad, as I say, is still in the limelight in front of him there last night, kind of doing this kind of flex pose. They seemed a little bit even more kind of calmer last night, probably because they won the fight. But his attitude after losing that fight against Cambosis was absolutely red flags all over it. Stating the likes of, for example, it was a conspiracy against my son, and if we were on ESPN, it would never got robbed, all that type of stuff. So really, him alone, I like to see him get chased. Maybe bring Joey Gamache back in. Maybe get working with Robert Garcia, someone who's a kind of more aggressive-minded trainer, knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, really. Because as you probably heard them in some of the stuff about the Cambosis talk in the corner, saying knock him fucking out. That's fucking easy, mate. But how are you going to fucking do that? How are you going to set it up for him? Tell him how to set it up. Isn't he a trainer like that? He just seems to be kind of shouting at his son, looking good, baby, all this type of stuff, all these kind of cliche sayings and that. So I like to see him get maybe not even just bin him off, but keep him in the in the background as far as possible and bring in a more professional team. But I think it purely comes down to money, because Lopez has got a lot of mouths to feed, and that's a massive family, I believe, as well. And it'll be really hard, I would imagine, in that type of family to try and bin his dad off full time. So it would be really hard for the kid, actually, to be honest with you. And I still believe to this day, I'm not knocking the guy for it, but I believe there is severe mental fragilities about the kid. Everything can be great one minute, then it's dark the next. There's a lot of guys like that. Maybe Tyson Fury's a wee bit like that as well. But clearly, the kid needs a wee bit of help from time to time as well.
Yeah, I know it's easy to pick faults with these guys sometimes, but whenever anything happens in the ring, Lopez Senior, the first thing he's turning around to the crowd, picking up the adulation, which I say is absolutely fine if they're winning and things are going well. We can read things into things that maybe aren't there, but I always think he's just vicariously living through the son. The son is achieving things that maybe he wasn't able to achieve, or it wasn't at the right time of life for him, and he is vicariously living through the son, which I think is a dangerous game, and it kind of clouds the judgment in the ring sometimes. Anyway,
like Andy said too, Steve, is it doesn't appear that he knows a whole lot about boxing, right? And I think that's
coming here with us.
Well, I think that's why Teo is so incredible.
He was a street fighter at one point, was he? He's not a drug dealer.
Possibly, but let me say that's why I think Teo is far more impressive than people give him credit for, because if his dad's in charge, so much of this is just his own natural rhythm and stuff like that. Like, yes, he's a fundamentally sound fighter, but he's very, very what's the word I'm looking for? He's got just good instincts in the ring, right? So and he fights off of those instincts. He can just kind of feel his opponent's movement and stuff like that with his pull counters and these shots that he comes up with. So with him, with a technically sound trainer who knows what the fuck he's talking about, like, this kid is really fucking dangerous. I mean, look what he did with Gamache, that one fight, giving him a game plan and shit like that, and just kind of being there to coach. Like, he is in bad need of a real deal trainer. But what he's pulling off without one, just based on his God-given abilities and what he's taken in over the years, is incredible. He's a natural, an absolute natural.
Would it be fair to say that Matty is achieving what he is in spite of his father rather than because of him?
Absolutely. It's tremendous. I mean, just consider his dad a big roadblock that he's already had to scale.
It's the limelight thing that doesn't sit right with me with him for some reason. I don't know what it is. I mean, like, you see Lomachenko's dad, you never see him or even hear for his dad. Maybe the odd time you'll hear from like trainers like Robert McCracken. He's another one. He doesn't go away chasing the limelight, chasing interviews. Nothing. He was training one of the biggest stars in boxing, for a period of time. But those ones are not exactly, in your face and screaming down the fucking camera lens and, all that type of shit. Every chance he gets, man, every time he sees a camera, it's time for him to act up in front of it. As I say, it's just that narcissistic way, I suppose, isn't it?
He certainly is. Well, I am looking forward to Lopez's next move, both senior and junior. Matty, we shall move on to the undercard, and you can guide me through this. Xander Zayas getting a 5th-round knockout win over Elias Espadas. Whether he's anything to do with Guti Espadas, if you remember him back in the day, fought the likes of Eric Morales. Andres Cortez as well, 17-0, got a win over Abraham Montoya. We were discussing this off air, actually, Matty. I don't know if we're going to mention it. You don't have to if you don't want to. ESPN Top Rank's propensity these days to have 10-rounders, main events, and then a few 8-rounders supporting, rather than the traditional, it would be like a 12-rounder main event usually, wouldn't it? And then a 10 or even a couple of 8s. And maybe they're just doing things a little bit differently, but I'm not a fan of the 10-rounders when people are 14 and around world title level. the likes of Lopez last week, Dogbe, Joe Gonzalez. I don't want to become a boring bastard who's constantly going on about it all the time, but I think this new structure is a bit of an odd one.
I think last night I saw one 10-round fight, or scheduled, 2 scheduled 8-round fights and 2 scheduled 6-round fights. So it was a little funky. It's not ridiculous like Dogbe against Gonzalez where it's an eliminator and it's over 10 rounds. Like, that's really stupid. So we'll kind of give a pass to that. But there, and to be fair, a lot of those fights, or at least the Zayas fight, ended in knockout. Didn't matter what it was scheduled for. But I think right now the problem is that I think Top Rank is in a little bit of a talent hole right now where they're building some people up, and they're not really at that level where they can have them in the 10 and the 12 round fights. So we're kind of stuck with that. And we had the Olympians on the card last night too, and we can get into that. But as far as Zayas goes, this kid remains my number one prospect in boxing. He's tremendous. I think there's a lot of decent in-ring comparisons with him and Teo and the way that they go about their business. But you look at the fact that this kid is 19 years old and what he's doing in the ring. It's just tremendous. He's got every punch. He's got patience. He can box. He can pressure. He got a little wild at times, but I don't think he was worried about his opponent too much. And I believe that Espadas had not been stopped previously. So put that as a feather in the cap of Zayas. This kid is going places. He is the reason that I think that I'm so excited about him is you look at a lot of those in-ring similarities with the capability style with him and Lopez, but within the corner aspect, Zayas doesn't have the tumultuous shit going on. It's a lot more stable. And I just see great things coming from this kid. When you got Berlanga banging people out, people thought, oh, this is the next big Puerto Rican star. No, it's not. Xander Zayas is the next big Puerto Rican star. It's going to take, probably another 18 months. I bet you not this coming Puerto Rican Day Parade, but the one after, if he hasn't run into, some unexpected nonsense in between, that's going to be his real breakout moment where he takes that Miguel Cotto, Felix Trinidad, mantle and runs with it. They've been hurting for that right now. They don't, other than Serrano, they don't have anyone with a particularly big name right now holding titles. So Zayas has a lot of pressure on him, but this kid's got a different head game, and Tim Bradley is just as high or higher on him than I am. And I really am excited to see where this kid goes.
Just before we bring Andy in on Zayas, Matty, from the rest of the guys, the Olympians, Troy Isley, I know he's one to watch. I didn't see the Duke Rajan fight. I didn't see any of it at all, but I noticed a few people on Twitter or wherever it was, it might have been in the NUTHOUSE group, saying that he took a few shots and the 58-56 times 2 represented the fact that they've matched him pretty tough, as Joe Kennedy says in the chat there. Yeah. Looks like they matched the Olympians pretty well last night.
Yeah, it seems like they matched them pretty well, but also looking at that, and you kind of think about like the star power and you think about that X factor to really go that extra mile, not just be an ordinary good fighter, but a truly great fighter. And I didn't see it from Isley or Reagan last night. Definitely disappointed in them as far as that went. I thought that the Cortez Montoya fight was way more entertaining. That was a good fight. Montoya providing another good test for a guy working his way up the ladder. He gave, I think Flores his first loss might have been, or maybe he just ran him tough. He ran him tough, and Flores held him a lot. And then on that, there was one more on there. It was Vivas against, I don't know if you have that in front of you, Steve, but that was an entertaining back and forth affair, a lot of in the trenches stuff. Neither of these fighters really going anywhere. Vivas had recently lost to Baez, who will be seeing against Navarrete this weekend. But that was just a good, well-matched, entertaining scrap, fun for TV on the ESPN Plus portion of the show before the main card started on ESPN. So all in all, a pretty fair card. It's not a huge star power A+ card, but as far as having decently matched fights that were at least competitive, if not always entertaining. Definitely a strong card showing why Arum is one of the best at moving his fighters along and separating the Kurds from the way.
Good stuff. Bob Arum still doing things, doing bits at 90 plus years of age. Charlie Burley TBE has led the super chat charge with an $8.99 thrown in there. Thank you, Charlie. Been entered into the competition to win the
Get on
signed
with the
Andy
Fox,
Lee glove.
Steve.
What is
We're
it?
about 100 likes. 100 likes have been let
Yeah,
down, so no live
it's
pod
off.
for you bums.
Yeah, no
It's
live
off.
pod, unfortunately. We only got 80. Was it 82 last week? I think we
It
ended
was.
up with.
I had gassed it.
Can't we let them like it after the podcast and build to that 100 likes?
Nah, it's going to be super chats now, mate.
Yeah. Although what we probably will end up doing is a post-fight pod for USYK Joshua next weekend, so we'll make it up to you. But yeah, unfortunately, the 100 likes hasn't lived.
Yeah, you guys were going to get a live Chicks with Dig for Marshall versus Shields, and you fucked it up. You fucked it up.
I think the likes trailed off at that point, but yeah, we were going to do the live during Marshall versus Shields, but the people have spoken. 1,500 views, only 82 likes. There was no interest, unfortunately, so we'll move on to something else. But we will do a post-fight regardless next week for USYK Joshua, so look forward to that. Thank you to Charlie for his super chat. Andy, do you want to mention anything about Xander Zayas or anything on the undercard quickly before we move on to Smid?
Yeah, just quickly, mate. Really impressed by the kid, actually. I like to see him step up the action a little bit in terms of like rounds and opponents and that. Jab pretty well, really good left hooks. Hurt Espada a couple of times, to be fair, and that whipping left hook, that first knockdown actually with the pullback counter where the left hook was tremendous shot. Really like the look of this guy, and I'd imagine he'll now get a top 10 ranking on actually off the back. I think that was some sort of WBO trinket that was on the line there. So real interested to see where he matches up and who he gets in for the next opponent. But he is definitely going places, that guy. And to be fair, I don't know where he's going to land at. I don't know if he's going to get his world title opportunity at 54, because obviously he need a wee bit of seasoning. But I think by the time he grows out, I mean, he's only like 21, I think he's going to end up at middleweight before we even know it. So
yeah,
I think they'll really be taking it easy with him actually over the next couple of years. Just get him seasoning, and then obviously the women make a move at
154. He just got.
Yeah, but look at size him though, Matty. Even at 54, mate, he looks absolutely tremendous.
Oh,
looks
he's sturdy,
out.
man. He's
yeah,
sturdy.
I think as I say, 21, 22 he is. Still got a bit of growing to do. I think his peak years will be at 60, to be fair.
See, and I'd like to see if I'd like if he could stay at 54 for a while, because I think that ultimately that's where Boots and Virgil Ortiz are going to have to set up shop. And I think in a couple of years, those three fighters against each other, that's some fucking action, man. That's some quality boxing.
Yeah, there's some good fights to look forward to involving Xander Zayas. He is a big lad, as Andy mentioned there. One fight that didn't take place over the weekend, unfortunately, in our prediction league was Tevin Farmer against Mickey Bay, 10-rounder in Arizona. Who would have thought this? Who would have saw this coming, Matty, briefly? There was no money for this. They both did a joint Instagram announcing the fight wasn't going to take place. It was going to take place in Ghana, then in somewhere else, now in Arizona. I'm starting to worry, Matty, that this isn't ever going to happen.
The promoters apparently fucked this up. So I was trying to see where I could watch this at. If it was one of those things you get for $5, be like, yeah, fuck it. It's Friday night. And so I saw it, and they wanted $39.99 or $29.99. One of the two. It was far more than I was willing to pay for it. I'd already put $5 on Bay and $5 on a draw, because both were paying good plus money. And but then I'm trying to just trying to follow a boxing scene, and I never see it. And then scrolling through something, and I see them talking to some gal and saying that the fight is off, that the promoters couldn't put it together, and they weren't going to get paid or some shit. So this is really, really terrible for these guys, because jokes aside, they've put months and months and probably 3, maybe 4 months in total of training camps together, trying to get this fight to happen. And it just hasn't. You got to think that these guys are in the whole big, trying to chase this down, and it's terrible, man. These guys seem to have fucked them over pretty good, but we'll see where it goes from here. Eddie, you why don't you put this on a Friday night? It can't cost that much goddamn money.
Eddie had Tevin Farmer for a bit, did they not?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah. Aye.
He
Oh,
lost
God.
once and he kicked him to the fucking curb. That's
No.
bullshit. Like, doesn't that look fucked up? Like, you got this underside, cross-eyed little fuck. He loses once, you kick him to the curb. Like, that's just the optics. The optics are bad.
The optics
Steve.
aren't good, are they, on this? The optics aren't
No,
good on every sense.
Just terrible.
I think it was Russell Peltz was commenting saying he wasn't surprised to see the fight falling through, and the promoter apparently has left a string of unpaid debts and money owing here, there, and everywhere. So it's no surprise that these two boys didn't get paid.
Yeah, Dan Raphael was saying the same, actually saying that the promotion certainly was just like non-existent, and you've basically got Bay and Farmer just ready to get wrapped up, ready to go, and they're like, well, they've not delivered. Clearly, the money was meant to be in escrow, possibly. And what a state of affairs!
Bitcoin Rodney would never let this happen.
No. It'd be even more kind of legit and above board.
Good old Bitcoin Rodney. Anyway, there's a big fight next weekend taking place. Big fights bring out big opinions and big personalities. None bigger than Adam Smido Smith himself. Not the Sky one, the real one. There's a big fight next weekend, Smido. It's AJ USYK, but you're not on here to talk about that. You have got more interest in Nigel Benn versus Chris Eubank. And apparently, Smido, there's no outrage in the Adam Smith household. Please do explain.
I'm all for it, Wellings. I mean, and after an introduction like that, you never ever let me down, do you? But I'm all for it. To be honest, I think it's a big fight, simple as that.
Sack them off.
We can obviously all pick holes in it, and I'm sure you guys will, and I'm happy to encourage you to do that. But it's not a mismatch that people are saying. Just look at the odds. Eubank's 8-15, Conor Benn 7-4. There's main events on every weekend that have got a lot worse odds than that in terms of perceived competitiveness. So I've got real no problem with that. The pay-per-view don't bother me or you guys anymore anyway, does it? Because we've all got the technology to circumvent such payments. I was just pledging I think last time I was on, I was pledging my liking for Conor Benn earlier this year. He might not be a world beater. He might not go on to become a world champion. He certainly isn't a Master 4 boxer. But who cares, really? Not everyone is going to go on and be those things. I think he talks a good game. He works hard. He has worked hard. I mean, even you guys can't deny that. I mean, he's from his debut, which was Campbell Hatton-esque, to where he is now. I mean, he's come on a fair way. Like I say, even if he doesn't get to the top of the mountain, he's come a fair way. He's fun to watch. He's got a good KO ratio, particularly of late. Of course, we can pick holes in the likes of Formella, Vargas, Granados, Algieri, particularly Algieri, and Van Heerden. But that's a definite progression in standard of an opponent, someone with virtually no amateur background. And 3 of those names is quite literally blown away. So, is that run of opponents any worse than some of the names on Eubank's account? I don't think so. So I've never been convinced by Eubank. I've said that on here before. He stepped up twice. He's been beat twice by the good fighters in their peak. We all know that. I'm not saying anything unique there. He thinks he's a bigger puncher than he is. If you stand in front of him, he'll hit you with shots and create a nice highlight reel. But he's certainly no Kennedy Golovkin, is he? I mean, I know that the lads will have plenty to say about my comments on Ben's opponents, which is fair enough. But if you look at the likes of JJ McDonough, has shot James DeGale, injured Korobov, Marcus Morrison points, and the other fellow I can't even name, Wanik Aldijan. I certainly didn't watch that fight. Liam Williams, good win. Probably his career best performance. There's no doubt about that. But he still went to points with an opponent that he put down 4 times, and every time you hit him with a gust of wind, he was falling over, and he still couldn't put him away. He does too much posing, and like I say, I think he thinks he's a bigger puncher than he is. I've said that for a long time. We don't really know what weight it is. The boys have been on the chat tonight saying that they think the rehydration's only £5. I can't believe that. But if it is, Eubank signed the contract, so he knows what the weight clauses are and what he's got to weigh on this day and what he's got to weigh the day after. If he signed the contract, he's got 2 options. He either makes the weight or pays a load of money if he don't make the weight. That's up to him. He signed the contract. Obviously, it'll be harder for him to come down 2 or 3 pounds than Ben to go up 10 pounds. I think that's safe for everyone to see. And we saw the height difference between the two of them the other day. We could have a conversation about Ben's career path as a whole. I mean, it depends how you look at it, really. It's kind of he's got the backup because he can just come back down to welterweight. But every time, 6 months ago, They was telling us that he's ranked in all governing bodies, 1 or 2 fights away from a world title shot. Fast Car naming names like Furman, Broner, who I think's retired anyway, and all sorts of names like that. And yet we delivered a fight without question the wrong weight class in a fight where the odds makers and many opinions will expect him to lose. So I don't know. In terms of Conor Benn's career path and the management of him by whoever is managers and promoters, that is questionable. But as a fight, I've got no problem with it. I'll be watching it as per pay-per-view. We could be here all night on that one. There's still people on Twitter I see saying, well, you don't have to pay for it. What, you're actively encouraging someone that is reluctant to or can't afford to pay for it. You're just actively encouraging them not to watch it and not be fans of boxing. I find that really, really strange. I always have. Bottom line is, Steve, I'll be watching, you'll be watching, Andy will be watching. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
I just think the weight's going to
I ain't paying, though.
kill him.
I ain't paying.
I ain't fucking paying.
Well, I just think isn't it 157 pounds they're having it at the catch weight, and Eubank Jr. hasn't made middleweight in how many years? Like, I think even if he makes the weight, like I don't think he's gonna make it well. And if he doesn't take out Ben in the first couple of rounds, I think he's fucked. I think
he's not really got a lot of fat to cut off as well. You know, he's always been shredded, always been. Yeah. And
I mean,
but what it says it was Liam Williams who came out with the comments, though. You know, do you think he might, Eubank might just fuck the weight off, take the fine, and just go for it?
It depends what the fine is, and they've been saying things about, they've got the option to walk away, but really, on the morning of the fight, are you going to walk away from, a big payday? But just from Eubank's point of view as well, this is probably going to be his biggest payday. You would have thought. Yeah, you probably would. Yeah, you'd probably say this is Eubank. Would you not?
What do you make of Saunders?
Yeah, but it's a long time ago, Saunders.
No, I would say it would be the Groves fight. The Groves fight would have made millions, mate.
Yeah, because that was in the yeah, that was it. Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, look, it's a big payday for Eubank. I think his career is massively underachieved. Well, I don't think he's that good anyway, so underachieved might be the wrong word, but he could have done a lot more. He's been inactive for large periods. He's had nothing fights across the pond for a long time. He's clearly a big name in the UK. I mean, look at the amount of times he's fought on a matchroom card, particularly a pay-per-view one, not as the main event. He's propped up a fair few matchroom cards, from fucking Tony Jeter to a couple of AJ undercards. So he's clearly, there's only one reason he's on a matchroom card, because he's a sell and he'll help with the pay-per-view or the viewing figures, whatever. So it is a surprise that he's not done more with his career. He's 33 years old. He's always been in shape. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and he probably could go on for another 5 years. But his Eubank's career just seems to meander into insignificance for large parts of his career as a whole, I think.
That's true. No, I agree with that. Couple of things, Smid. Des says the original was between two world-class guys. The second was two world champions. Ben Jr. hasn't won a domestic title, and Eubank Jr. has never thrilled. Are we expecting too much? I'll watch it. Also, Smid, I'm going to ask you, our old friend Eduardo, you've been at him in the past. It feels to me like Eduardo is at end times now. This feels like another let's quickly cash out, kind of make a bit of money fight before I get out of the sport. Am I being harsh on Eddie?
No, I think you could be right on it there. Definitely. I think you could. I mean, look, we don't know about what they're thinking. They might have think, well, the titles at welterweight are tied up. I'm told. I don't really care if they are or not, but that's the kind of the narrative they're going with. But they might also think that Ben ain't that good anyway. So, and like I said at the start, he might not be that good, but I think he's in entertaining fights. Like I say, I think he's obviously worked hard on his craft, and he talks a good game, and he's taking this fight. So fair play to him. As for Eddie, I mean, yeah, it's he's not good. I mean, the perception that he gives out like he's the number one in the world, and he's other than the likes of AJ Usyk, which obviously is a big fight, and Canelo Triple G. There's very little underneath that. There's very little supporting material, just generally to his operation, to his stable. I mean, this is the next best that they've got to offer. And as Des rightly says, the standard of these two as they go into this fight is no way near what it was for when the dads happened. But I don't think anyone is claiming any otherwise, to be honest. I mean, Eubank's never won a world title. Ben certainly hasn't ever won a domestic title, I don't think. But he probably is around European level. They probably both are. It's probably a European level fight between two big names. And are they big names because of the dads, or are they big names in their own right? Probably a bit of both. Like I say, I quite like it. There's not many boxers that I would say, oh, such and such is on Saturday, I'll watch that. Even this Saturday coming, it ain't happening, by the way. If I get a better offer Saturday, I'll be going out and I won't bother watching the boxing. But if Conor Ben's on, I would say to myself, oh yeah, if I can watch that, I will. He's probably the only fighter, the only non-world title holder that I've been doing that for, to be honest. Like I said, we can pick holes in his opponents. Some Chris Algieri long over the hill, but what you've got to do with Chris Algieri when he is over the hill is go in and blast him out, and that's exactly what he did. Got no problem with that.
Check out the Grime 9, good comment from him. He says Korobov would have been a good win before his arm fell off. Like Woody, Andy's going to make a comment quickly about the dads before we move on to AJ Usyk, and I'd like to get your views, Smido, on that fight before you disappear. Andy, first of all, to you.
It was just briefly, mate, on Senior's career. I mean, people forget that Senior had fought absolute trash up to that point until he fought Ben the first time. It was Ben. It was actually more the proven fighter. He'd been to America, I remember, and come back with the belt. Although it was a kind of lightly regarded belt at that point in time as well. But Senior had made that fight into an absolute necessity in Britain. I mean, everybody was at it. Gaza, Frank Bruno, all the kind of top end celebrities were at that fight at the time. Proper needle. This is just like, to me, I said it back a few weeks ago when I was kind of like not happy that something could seriously happen in this fight. And if it's true about the Eubank with the rehydration clause, considering what the board have been through in the past, I'd be shocked if this is true.
Can't see that, Andy. I really can't see that.
Yeah, and I say to you guys, when Eddie mentioned the IBF, it's less than IBF rehydration clause. I was like, well, it's a minimum is like £9, obviously. So it's not obviously £10. It's going to be at least £9. It's a big push, like, and if Eubank was saying it as well, didn't he? He said like if I'll be 65% or whatever it was at the press conference due to the weight issue, he could win it on the jab, stay on the jab, but I'll watch it. I've got that same kind of thing as you, Steve. It's a cash grab. It's all it is. I think Eddie's a bit under pressure as well to try and deliver something kind of like marquee as well, so to speak. Obviously, he's not got the Joshua fight. And if Joshua takes that L next week, is he going to be on pay-per-view anytime soon? Plus, again, the fight's on an app. Who's like big boxing fans these days, maybe not technically minded to actually even get access to this? Who knows? We'll wait and see.
Just on Eubank, when he stepped up against Groves, we all know the story about Billy Joe Saunders, a fight of two halves. But against Groves, he was awful. He was absolutely awful.
He was always in it, though, mate. That was the thing. He's always in it.
There's levels though, isn't there? Like George Groves to Conor Ben in terms of like achievement and ability
and
it's
size.
Chalk and cheese. Yeah, it's like Groves was a massive, like big, 168, and I've never felt that Eubank was actually a legit 168. I think he went there because it was just comfortable. I think he's always been a 160, and I never look at him and think he's actually a massive middleweight either. He's just lean and he's quite solid, quite thick. But the only way, I just can't see any way Ben's going to beat him. I really can't. That unless that extra, like 2 or 3 pounds that he's going to take off to get, what is it, to 156, 157, something like that. Unless that literally ruins all ability of Eubank taking a shot, I just can't see it how to win. The way to beat Eubank is you can just box, get behind a jab. He can't step to the right. And you can just keep him that way, pop, and it's easy. Conor Ben can't do that. He wants to get involved in a tear-up, and he gets involved in tear-ups. That just plays into Eubank's hands. And it's all right saying, Ben rehydrates to this size and stuff like that, but he's not getting hit by people who are naturally bigger than him. And we're not just talking, like at 154. We're talking about a guy who has operated at a decent level at 168. But has also knocked out big middleweights as well. Liam Williams is a big lad for 160, and he bullied him. Yeah, he might not be that destructive one-punch knockout artist, but at the same time, we've seen Ben buzzed quite a few times off lads that aren't big hitters either. I know it was a while ago, but Payno dropped him and buzzed him a few times. He's taken shots previously. I think I understand the fight from a financial perspective. It's a massive payday for the pair because of the names alone. If they decided to make, say, Liam Smith against Jack Catterall tomorrow, we'd laugh at it. And it's exactly the same. Catterall's at 140, Smith's at 154. they'd be going up there. No one would care about it. It's the names alone that have made this fight doable. But at the same time as well, you know, it's bizarre what they've done with Ben to protect him so much.
Yep.
You know, the way they've navigated through 147, 147, constantly, not taking any domestic fights, by the way. You know,
Mention
like
the big
have
names,
opportunity.
Thurman and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we want to fight Keith Thurman. We want these big names. I think they've done this because they know they've not got a chance in hell anytime soon of winning a world title. Because they don't just want to box for one, they want to win one. You look at the big hitters at 147, they don't stand a fucking chance. Crawford, Spence, Jaron Ennis.
Yep.
They just they don't stand a chance. So I think they're just going, right, we'll go and take the money elsewhere and we'll go and fight Eubank. And as long as he basically doesn't get badly KO'd, they'll just drop back down to 147. And I think the towel will be coming in a bit like a Kell Brook Golovkin thing, you know, where Ingle was on the side, you know, waving the white flag, basically. Stopped him from being, you know, that mean that, you know, that you see in the morning and Ben's basically crippled on the floor because he's taken a massive shot. That's what I think they'll stop him from doing. I just don't see any sort of way. Eubank has improved, but I think what he does need to do is he needs to fuck this style off that Roy Jones is trying to hone on him, and he needs to go back that what works well for him though, and that's a pressure fighter throwing a lot of shots. And I just think he'll overwhelm Ben completely. Ben might still be snappy, you know, like when Khan stepped up to fight Canelo. He retained that speed in his hands, and he caused Canelo problems, and he was winning rounds, but it soon caught up on him. And let's have it right, Conor Ben's not got a fantastic gas tank either. We see him blow up in the championship rounds, you know, like rounds 8 onwards regularly. Now it's going to be a hell of a lot different when you're putting on natural weight just to get there. You're not spooning up to it. You've got to put it on to get there initially. Sparring's going to be interesting. You know, Ben, we see them often, you know, like they'll spar bigger guys, but they're going to have to spar. He's going to have to spar bigger guys regularly now to do that. Whereas Eubank can just keep it as it is.
John Ryder.
Ryder will be in there. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, really interesting. The only reason the fight is happening is because of the last names. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's odd. I've seen comments, you know, like, how can you shit on this fight? I don't agree with that. You know, like I said, if you were to make Smith Catterall tomorrow, you know, no one would care about it as such. And it's the same in terms of, you know, the fundamentals of weight. But at the same time, you know, it's sold out already. I think that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. It's ignorant to say it isn't a big fight for the interest it's got already, and look at the discussion we're having on it now. Do I agree with it? I'd want to know the rehydration clause. Spencer Oliver on TalkSport said today it's £5. For me, that's dangerous. Mm-hmm. If you're saying to Eubank that you cannot put £5 on after you've weighed in on the Friday until Saturday morning, he can barely eat or drink off that.
That's what you say. No food or water, mate. That's like sitting in the hospital for an operation, basically.
Yeah,
12 hours
he essentially needs to starve himself and have sips of water. He can't eat a thing, basically, because he'll be very tight at the weight anyway, you know, to get down to 157 or whatever it is. So then, like, if he has a glass of water type of stuff, you know, that weight will just be going straight back on him to rehydrate. So I hope it's more than £5. And I think the board have got serious questions to answer if they're allowing stupid rehydration limits like this. £5. Now, like I said, this hasn't been confirmed, but it's going to be interesting to see. I think, you know, like when the IBF have changed theirs now, it's £12. So when they said it was below that, I thought, I wonder if they've gone on the old IBF one, £10. And that's proven that that's okay. But anything less than that, you know, £5, fuck me. That's nothing, absolutely nothing. And it presents a danger then, in my opinion, regardless of who you're against.
I think of it as an experiment, especially in this weather, and none of us are training and cutting weight. If you woke up tomorrow morning, got on the scales, weighed yourself, you could put £5 on by dinner time. No problem. Any of us could do that. And they're saying to him that he can't put £5 on in what is it? What would it be? About 16 hours after cutting all the way down to his lowest weight ever. I do agree with Ozzy. It is dangerous. But if you have signed the contract, you've got two options. You pay the fine, and it sounds big. or you make the weight that you've agreed to. It wasn't a mandatory. He didn't have to, he signed on the dotted line. It's up to you then.
I
Go on,
just
Matt.
think that this is gonna look like a really low budget Bollywood version of Pacquiao against De La Hoya. I think it's gonna just it's just like don't go eating any ostrich and make the comparison even worse.
That'd be brilliant. Love
There,
a Bollywood
Eubank.
movie, me, Matty. Someone dressed up as a dragon chasing him around the ring. It'd be great, crack.
I'm telling you, have you ever seen the Indian Michael Jackson video?
I'm sure I have at some point.
What are we talking about?
But anyways, I think you're gonna see, and the problem is that unlike Pacquiao, I don't think that Ben is an incredibly talented fighter, so that dimension is out of it. But I just think that you're going to see a good lower weight fighter take advantage of a weight drained higher weight fighter who says he can make a weight that he can't safely make, and I just think that's how it's going to turn out. And if Ben can't take him out first 2 or 3 rounds, I think he's fucked.
Right. We'll talk about it closer to the time. Let's get on to the big one. Just before we do so, shout out to Liam Wynn. He sent us in a 179. He says, keep up the good work. Tell me about the tattoo. Good super chat from Liam there on episode 487. Smido's on the call. He's going to stick around, talk AJ USYK shortly, hopefully. Matty's here as well. Ozzy, Andy, Rob Kelly was here for a little 30-second cameo at the beginning. No doubt he will appear again later on. Let's have a look through the chat, see who's hanging around there. The manure. We've got Jay in, DJT 1785. We've got Buju B. We've got Jim McDonald Boxing, Johnny Horsecock Nelson. We've got M. Lithgow 1983. Shout out to Mark Stanton, Ben Russell, Grime 9, MJW, Joe Thackeray. Give you picks, by the way, for AJ USYK in the chat now. Any thoughts if you want me to shout out? Darts legend Chris Mason's in the chat. Shout out to Chris. Des is here as well. Sad Ken, CHR, Amit Sharma, Chris Butler. And a couple more here. Who else have we got? Any new names? Sean Edwards. And finally, Warrior Webb. Shout out to you as well. And Big A is knocking about there as well. Also, Chris Bray said, sorry, Matty, he said, shout out to me, Steve, undisputed regular listener. I just take you on Spotify through the week. Take us all you want, Chris. If you're not going to get a shout out, you might as well give yourself one. Matty, if you want to put that comment back up, fair enough. There's Jim McDonald Boxing. He says Eubank must be about 5% body fat at 168 pounds. His last few fights, he will look like a skeleton at 157. So thank you to Jim McDonald Boxing for that one.
To our previous commenter before Jim there, I'm just curious if you think you can take us all at once.
Well, you never know. Depends. Depends on the size. Anyway, shout out to Chris Bray and everybody else in the chat if I haven't mentioned you, like Clouds Gaming and David Mustard. There's your shout out, Neil. Cal Cheds and Matthew Butters as well. Matthew Butters says USYK on points. Not sure he stops AJ though, to be honest. So let's get the little graphic up to make things real, make things authentic. There we are. There's the two boys on the scales getting ready to rumble. I think that was before the first fight, obviously. So Smido, you're with us. You're our guest of honour. Last time Joshua went into a rematch, he won clearly. But that was against the 300-pound fat mess, old Ruiz, who'd spent all the training camp, well, enhancing his waistline portfolio and his bank balance more than anything else. Joshua was able to stand off in Saudi Arabia, box from range effectively. But this is USYK, Smido. He's an experienced professional. He's bulking up a little bit, looks a bit bigger, putting on muscle for the rematch. But his team are going to let it get to a point, I think. Once the weight gain starts to affect his performance, they'll scale it back. They'll have everything on point. I struggle to see beyond USYK in this one. Tell me why I'm wrong, Smido, in this rematch, Joshua against USYK in the Red Sea.
Wellings, you're not wrong. You're 100% right. I mean, I'm struggling to see past USYK as well. I just think it's quite straightforward to me. That USYK has done it the first time. I don't see the improvements that AJ can make to turn it around in the next fight. I think that USYK could have stopped him late on in the last fight. I think he will stop him in this fight. And where you've got USYK, I think the two fighters are going in different directions. USYK is growing into the weight. You've alluded to the pictures we've seen where he's looking bigger and the stronger. And I think Joshua's going the other way. He's scrambling around for a different team or different makeup of the team and the process, this and this, that, and the other. And I just think he's going the other way. The thing with Anthony Joshua is, and we've obviously discussed that name for hours on end on this podcast. He's just not that good, and he's never been that good. And most people on this podcast, including myself, have called that out for some time. It's not particularly a problem that he isn't as good as Tyson Fury now, or the greats that have gone by in the past. I'm not even going to mention the names. He doesn't deserve to be alongside those names. It's no problem that he's not as good as them. He's been in some entertaining fights. They've been quite opportunistic with his career at times, and they can safely stand there with a straight face and say that he has got probably the best resume at heavyweight at the moment with the people he's taken on. But he's come up against a different animal in Usyk compared to all the other fighters that he's fought, and he was soundly beaten last time. And I think he'll be soundly beaten again this Saturday. The utter madness of the DAZN and Sky situation for this fight, I can't even explain how much of a bad business decision that is going to turn out to be, because this time next week, Joshua is going to have lost back-to-back fights, and DAZN have made him a fucking shareholder, even though this fight, which is obviously the biggest of his career, because his career, in my mind, could effectively be over as and when he's knocked out at the weekend. None of that makes sense to me, but we're not really here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what happens in the ring. The first fight, the odds have basically flipped from the first fight. So going into this fight, we've got Usyk's in there at about 4-7 currently. Joshua's 13-8 top price. I think as the week goes on and we get closer to fight night, as usually happens when the hype builds, the man on the street gets his money on the British fighter. They'll see that Joshua's odds against. They'll buy into this ridiculous narrative that they can change, that they got the tactics wrong last time, and one of the best boxing coaches the UK's ever had. They've basically blamed him and used that the game plan. They haven't named him by name, but McCracken, but they've used the game plan quote as the fault last time. I think that they'll get behind Joshua, and I can see that by the end of the week, my money's going to be on Usyk at a good price, a better price than he is now, and that's going to be thanks to the idiot man on the street that is prepared to back him. Give us a prediction then, Smido. Finally, nuts and bolts. Yeah, I think Usyk's going to stop him. He's going to box rings around him like he boxes rings around most people who he comes against, and I think that Usyk will win by stoppage this time. I think in the back of his mind, he's going to think he might have to with the setup of the promotion, and you don't need me to be getting into the judges, but Usyk to win by stoppage is 9-4, and I hope that will be a bigger price by the end of the week, and that's where my money will be going. Give us a round. What round? Oh, I don't normally do rounds. Go on. 7. Round 7. They are. Smido was spoken. If you agree with him.
Just on the betting aspect of that, just a couple other points on there, Smith, the way you're thinking there, like, so people know, like, Usyk by decision is just slightly less odds on the app I'm looking at right now than Usyk by than KO, TKO, DQ. I'm at plus 200, plus 170. They're really split on that. Slightly behind that, though, is Joshua by KO, TKO, DQ, plus 250 on that one. And what's really interesting to me is usually when you have fights where they have a really deep over-under, you have way more weight on the decision, the overside of things, and it's at 10.5 with minus 130 and dead even money on the under. So over minus 130, dead even money on the under. So they're really split and thinking that this is going to be something of a possible late stoppage. So it's very curious. It's very interesting on this one. This one, it seems like they're thinking it's going to be interesting late, but they can't decide how.
Yeah, you've everything you've said there is right, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, if you do fancy the robbery, you can get Joshua at 8-1 to win to win on points. But I just can't say. Sometimes rematches come around, and I know it sounds very simplistic, but I don't see what can happen or what could have happened in between the last fight and this fight, whether that be training, sparring, trainer, fucking diet, whatever. I don't see what could have happened to Anthony Joshua that means he can win the rematch of this fight. I just don't see it.
Shout out to Joe Thackeray, throwing in a 179. Thank you very much for that, Joe. Amit Sharma says AJ by matchroom decision, unfortunately. So what are we thinking then, Matty? Let's have a look at this then. If Joshua can sustain some success, close stronger than last time, he could definitely win on points. As Amit says, the deck's going to be stacked in his favour. Make no mistake about that. We all know that. But I struggle to see how he can last the distance fighting at a hard pace if that's what he has to do. being more aggressive and powerful. It's going to lead to success early on, but it's going to deplete that gas tank. And as the fight closes out this time, Usyk ain't going to piss about no more. That white tail that was hovering at ringside, it's coming in. Usyk's going for the kill. He ain't going to leave it to chance. Joshua has to be more aggressive. He has to throw more punches. He has to put it in Usyk's face. But I just don't see, unless he gets him out early, that's going to be a sustainable strategy long term.
I think if you're looking at it, I was thinking that if you're looking stoppage, you got to look AJ maybe early on this one. But with Usyk putting on this weight, Steve, I'm starting to think that Smino might be right as far as when Usyk might get the stoppage if it comes. Because if Usyk comes in hard and fast and the fight goes long, I'm thinking he could be huffing and puffing late too. And that's when those rounds come on where you can choose them and you give the judges a chance to go for your opponent. So this one could be interesting in that it might be a real shootout early. And if it's Usyk that's going for the shootout early, I have a really strange feeling that Joshua might actually close it out late by not blowing out his gas tank and being responsible and picking his moments. And I think that's a big thing that Garcia is going to be working on is pick your moments. Throw 40 punches around, but throw them in 5 bursts of 8 and maybe pepper a few other jabs in here and there. I think that's going to be the game plan for AJ. And I'm not going to give a pick yet because I'm curious where you guys are going to go, and I got to hedge myself a little bit to catch up on you bastards. But it's God, I think this fight's more interesting than you want to make it out to be.
Cal Ched says Joshua as the gas tank of a reliant Robin. The presence of Robert Garcia in the corner, though, Matty, just quickly, you mentioned that's interesting. He's not been on board for that long. He's never trained a heavyweight before. He's a good coach, but what new tricks can he teach an old dog like AJ? And also, on Usyk's bulking up, I mean, are we saying he's on the juice here or what? Don't want to cast any aspersions, but he's looking big.
He is. And I kind of, do you remember when Eddie Chambers moved down to cruiserweight?
Yeah.
And he lost that advantage of speed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Usyk's making that same mistake in his play. I think his incredible advantage in this fight is that he's a small, fast heavyweight.
He's not small though, is he?
He's smallish compared to this generation
3 inches.
of heavyweights.
He's 3 inches shorter than Joshua.
That matters though when you're looking at it. Also,
it didn't matter in the first fight.
Well, no, but I mean, if you're talking like in this age of giants, like I'm just saying that he is a small heavyweight in this age of giants. You got AJ, Fury, and Deontay Wilder is probably what you'd say the 3 primary champions previous to Usyk lifting that belt, and AJ is the smallest of them. So by today's standards, Usyk is a small heavyweight. And I think that his advantage against all 3 of those guys is from that speed. And I think bulking up might be might be a mistake. He didn't need it in the first fight. Why switch that up? He didn't need it.
No, I actually agree with that too. Andy, size matters, as we all know. Joshua, he's got to be active, got to throw more punches. The jab as well, up, down, head, body, keep Usyk guessing. Talking about the size advantages and reach advantages, I want to see a tall upright AJ. I know that's the old Eastern European style, they say tall and stiff, but I think he diminishes his size sometimes. He crouches in, especially in the first fight. You go back and watch the first fight. He crouches in a lot, AJ, like hunches his body over, down to Usyk's level, and then effectively negates the size advantages himself.
Yeah, maybe puts himself off balance a little bit as well, isn't it? Maybe it kind of ties his feet up as well. I think Joshua's one of those fighters where he's got to be, he's got to set his feet really to get his shots off. What I've been seeing some of the training videos, it seems to be that he's, as Matty was mentioning, like those combinations. I don't know if he can throw the 5-punch combos that Matty was mentioning, but certainly they're working on the jab, right hand, left hook to the body. Whether I think Joshua's going to have the main issue here is for me is he slimmed down a wee bit. I think even Andre Ward mentioned it as well, that where is he at here mentally? Where is he at here stylistically as well? Who's he listening to in the corner? Because there was how many people were actually in that corner in the first fight doing some talking. Could be the same in this fight. Who's he listening to? What about the muscle mass? For what I understand for USYK, he's been in Dubai for the best part of 12 weeks. Really been laying it on sparring partners for what I've been hearing. There's a big, either a Kazakh or a Uzbek just no recently turned pro. Big dude. He's claiming he's been getting it tough off him as well. No hurting them as such, but he's been laying the heat on them. He is geared up. I really believe Igis Klimas was mentioning something like thousands and thousands of miles on the bike, swimming. I think he's clocking something like just over 4 minutes 40 seconds doing that underwater breathing.
Yeah,
that
but
they do
has he
as
run
well.
backwards through the desert
Mate,
in combat boots, Andy? Has he run
mate,
backward through the desert in combat
What does it
boots?
matter? He's in Dubai. He's been in Dubai for 12 weeks. He is acclimated. I think it's 36 degrees. I think Ben was staying there in Jeddah just now. I don't know what it is in Dubai, whatever area in Dubai it is, but it'll be similar.
Well, and a lot of the fighters are getting there late. I mean, a lot of on this card, I think the guys like, geez, getting there a week beforehand.
Well,
I don't know.
Usyk started off, I believe, in Romania, right, and then they moved it to Dubai 2 months ago. Joshua, I don't know if he's moved out there yet, where he's training as such, where he's been training, but I think Usyk acclimation, mentality. I mean, you remember as well, the guy's a different mentality to most champions. You got to admit that. I think he'll be banging the mood, put on a statement. I will always believed, and they say that themselves, that they held him back. Rumour was at breakfast time the following morning when Usyk gave Joshua a nod at breakfast, fucking Anthony bit on the fucking, on the nod, because that's what he was doing. He was biting on all the feints that Usyk was giving him, struggling with the movement. Okay, you can mention the cut, maybe the scar tissue might be a wee problem. I don't suspect it will. They can mention that Joshua wants to kind of start fast, put the pressure on Usyk. I think that might fall into Usyk's hands if he steps back. He can maybe hurt AJ up the middle with an uppercut, work the body. I think it's set up potentially for Usyk to win by late stoppage. I agree with you, Steve. I don't think he wants to leave the chance. I said it to you guys as well months ago that this being in Saudi, Eddie being heavily invested, would they try and fuck him over? I don't know. But I think he can't leave it a chance. He's got to try and find the knockout.
Got to, Andy.
He's got to. I think he will do it late. He'll just work on it. Again, the first round it'll be like null and void for Usyk. I think unless Joshua starts fast and tries to put it on him right for the first go, I can see Usyk maybe just kind of probing, dancing around about, moving about the ring to see, just to see what Joshua's going to provide anything different. And then I think after round 2 and 3, we'll start to see the pattern that he's set, and he'll start upping the gears, upping the pace, and then providing, again, okay, it's a heavyweight fight, providing he doesn't get caught or anything, I can see him stopping him late, just purely on work rate, the size of the guy and that as well. I think he's built to try and end this fight, so I'm going to say he does it by around about round 10, I think. I said that stoppage the last time, actually, I'm going for it again, because he almost had it the first fight as well. And I say he had AJ blown at his arse badly, biting on every feint, ready to go. So yeah, I think it's set up for this one. And then remember, this isn't a air-conditioned arena, I believe, as well. This is outside, I believe, is it though?
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's the Superdome or something, Andy. He's going to have to get that knockout and get out of Dodge like Lucas Byrne in Chechnya, man, because if he ain't careful, they're going to book him into the Red Sea, and he's going to be fucking swimming all the way to Djibouti. So, Alexander, you better get out of there.
Yeah, true, mate. I just think a couple of variables with AJ. Mentality, he knows he can be hurt. He knows he can be rocked. It's what he does. He doesn't know what to do when he gets rocked. He's got to get on the back on the jab. He's got to grapple. He's got to hold. He's got to fucking stop himself from getting involved in a firefight. That's when he gets caught out, like I did against Ruiz. One shot I'm really looking to see for Joshua really is to see how he works and operates as his left hook. That is going to be his money punch if he's going to do anything in this fight, I believe, because they're Mexican boxing, Garcia, that type of thing, but they seem to be working heavily on that left hook. Even if it's not hitting the body, maybe it's hitting Usyk's lead hand, which would be jab hand. If it starts hurting the hand, brings the hand in, it might tell sometime later on in the fight. But again, is he going to be in position to land it often enough? That is the other thing as well. And the tank is always a question. Mentality, as I say, is style. This changing trainers is a wee bit of a concern for me. Well, maybe it comes good, who knows? And again, he's a moving target. Hasn't really got good head movement. He's got a stiff up body. And this is the gas tank. So, yeah, I think USYK could do it. As I say, USYK's acclimated. He's been there for months now. So, I think he'll be good to go.
Michael Thompson's thrown in £2. He says USYK wanting to buy the rights shows confidence. Shout out to Michael for his £2. He's in the Patreon, but these are the levels he's appearing at. He's thrown in a £2 as well. A Wakari, shout out to him, her, they, them. I haven't seen him in a while, if indeed before. $8.99 from Mr. Wakari. Thank you very much for that. So Kevin threw something into the Nutters chat earlier. I'm going to read it out. Hopefully coherently as I can. Kevin says, just rewatched USYK Joshua for the first time. I don't hold much hope for AJ in the second. His jab is bloody pathetic. If anyone can watch that and find a jab that actually lands, please point it out. He uses it as a rangefinder with no right hand behind it, and never once does he try and push into his face. It was making me angry with the cunt. I'm like, surely he's going to step in with it at least once. If AJ has a chance to win, continues Kevin, he has to straighten that jab, let that right hand go and punch with USYK. Boxing him will lead to the same result, possibly worse. Has to go early, or he'll get eaten up down the stretch, as the doctor would say. Get Seb on tonight for a jab masterclass. No Seb, unfortunately, but we do have Aussie Smith throwing in his 2 pence worth. Aussie, Smitho was saying there in the chat, 115, 113, 116, 112 scores. Maybe a little bit too close for comfort, I suppose, with home cooking. You can see by the time they got to the 8th round, the fight was relatively close. USYK pulled away down the stretch. Home cooking's going to be the case. Same in Saudi Arabia. As I said, USYK's going to leave nothing to chance because of these cards, Ozzy.
I agree. I don't think it's going to go the distance. I watched the fight back, actually, and the cards were terrible. I wouldn't say it was an easy fight for Usyk, but look, he had his own way a hell of a lot of the time, and the way he tagged Joshua at times was just with ease, and there was nothing, like spectacular in what he was doing. It was just basic stuff, and Joshua couldn't, the game plan was all wrong. And I've said already, look, the changes in going into this, I think there's been a big deal about, Usyk, he's got, the weight of the country on his shoulders. There's a war going on. He fucked his country off and left. So I think that shows where his mentality's at. He's here to win, and he's not letting any outside influences affect him. Anthony Joshua has fired his trainer, who he's been with all of his career, by the way, not just as a pro, but amateur as well, because he's always been at that Olympic setup with Rob McCracken. He's moved his base. He's brought in Robert Garcia, who he's never worked with before, which is fine. Yes, they've been doing some work pre-announcement, but still, it takes time. They've not had a fight, doing this. So it's all right in the gym, but sometimes it can take fighters a little while to acclimatise, to a new trainer. Usyk has put some weight on. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it'll be interesting to see what he's at, but I don't think he'll put on too much weight from where it will affect his, performance, where he'll lose skills, his speed. I think he knows he can get him out of there. That round 12, if there was another 30 seconds on the clock, Joshua would have been stopped. He was done. Now, what is Joshua going to do? He can't outbox him. And the only way he can rely basically on that gas tank is by not doing too much, because he's another one. Like Ben, he blows up down the back end of the fight. In the championship rounds, he gasses, he fatigues. And once he fatigues, he's a sitting duck because he's not got the legs to move around. He's got a fairly static head, actually, and he does get hit. It's not the first time we've seen him get tagged by shots before. I think Povetkin early on in that fight landed some big shots. I think he broke his nose, didn't he? It might have been a head clash, but he definitely landed a couple of big shots.
He did with a combo, was he? I think,
It was, yeah. And Joshua
he had some good moves, though. Povetkin always had some good moves. The white knockout. Yeah, he had some moves.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying that, Joshua is a very hittable target. He's... I can't see what he can do and what he's learned. Like people say, oh, yeah, he needs to use his size. Well, yeah, it's all right saying that, but what are you going to do with it? You could put a 400-pound man in, with like a fighter. Just because he's bigger than him, it doesn't mean, you need to be able to use that size. Tyson Fury is a prime example of how to utilize size in the ring. Leans on people, bullies people, makes it difficult. I just don't see Joshua doing that. I think Usyk's too cute for him. I think the break, bulking on weight, I think he's doing that for a reason. And I see the fight finishing not early, but I think midway, probably around 7 or 8. I think it'll be done and dusted then. I think Usyk will time his shots, similar to what Andy Ruiz did. You know, he timed his shots, and they'll be the damaging ones. We know Joshua can get hurt. Joshua knows he can get hurt as well, and I don't think he likes it. And he had no choice but to take this fight. He's got this huge deal with DAZN, which, I mean, it's just laughable, really. Laughable. DAZN have signed a fighter up to this record deal. If he gets chinned on Saturday, his stock depletes immediately. I don't care what anybody says, it does. He's lost back-to-back fights. It doesn't matter who it's against. And, you know, in the manner it was, I mean, let's have it right. The first time he got beat, we ended up talking about the judges' cards, not the fantastic performance of Alexander Usyk. If he gets chinned now, where does he go back to? Apart from the fact he'll be walking around with wheelbarrows full of cash from DAZN, fighting probably the likes of Dillian White again. I can't see any way Joshua wins personally. I think he's, you know, I'm not saying he was always overhyped, but, you know, I was one of them that said he's not as good as people make out. They bang on about his resume. Yeah, he's been relatively active and he's boxed people, but is there anybody on there that I wouldn't back, you know, like a Fury, a Wilder, or an Usyk to beat? No. You know, I don't care about wins against Dominic Breazeale, Eric Molina, stuff like that. Alexander Povetkin, but was old at the time, you know, faded guy, not fussed about stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm looking forward to it, but I only see one winner, just from the manner of the first fight. And Usyk said he stuck to a game plan, and he can box to a game plan. He's the master of that, and I think their game plan will be they're going to be more aggressive. They're going to hurt. I think if he hurts Joshua early as well, I think he'll go in for the kill. I don't think there'll be no carrying him, you know, waiting type of stuff. I think he'll pounce on him, and I think he'll chin him. And Joshua's not the best, you know, when he's hurt. He has this, you know, like this grin, you know, like, oh, he smiles. And you know he's hurt when he smiles. He's buzzed big time. And when he's buzzed, he's a big target to hit, and he doesn't cover up the best. You know, like when, I think, referring back to the Vladimir Klitschko fight, was it round 5 where he dropped Klitschko, but essentially but then lost the round?
No, did he drop Klitschko in the 4th, and then Klitschko dropped him in the 5th?
Is that what it was? Yeah, is that what it was? Yeah,
it was back-to-back rounds, whatever it was.
Yeah. So say it was the 4th. So he dropped him early, but then actually got hit again by a timed shot to hook to the temple. But then was just a sitting duck, you know, through legs had gone, they'd stiffened. He was blowing out of his backside. He was shattered. And I just don't see, you know, it's going to be, I'll be really intrigued to see what weight he comes in at. Really intrigued. You know, he's the one who's making the changes. Usyk isn't. And I just think all roads point to an Usyk win. But I think it'll be in devastating fashion, this one.
Yeah, good stuff, Ozzy. We will go around the panel shortly and get their exact prediction, so Matty can write it in the prediction league. Joe Burns has thrown in 179. He says, hope you're well, lads. Be listening in morning at Graft. Thank you very much, Joe Burns, for your contribution. Rapping Rob Kelly's on the call with us. Rob, Ozzy was mentioning the whole DAZN deal, which we've mentioned ourselves in the past and discussed. It is very strange the way they did it. I heard it mentioned during the week. I think it was Juice Ranger Rollins said, which kind of makes sense. The whole DAZN thing, announcement, AJ being a shareholder, was a political move to try and put a spanner in the works with the Saudis linking up with Sky Sports, etc. I suppose that's the most plausible explanation I've heard regarding that situation.
Well, according to anyone that I've spoken to, which is not fucking many people within boxing, are normally us or someone we know, but they reckon the Saudis love AJ, don't they? Like, so they've hosted him well previously. He had his rematch against, to quote Ozzy, fat as a pig, Andy Ruiz out in Saudi, and that's making it all a little bit spooky for me from Usyk's point of view, because I've said this before: 99 times out of 100, Usyk will beat Joshua. 100 times out of 100, I think if they fight, Usyk can beat Joshua. I just don't think Joshua has the style to beat Usyk. But there's a couple of creepy factors, I don't know, like the fact that Joshua's been working with Garcia longer than he's announced. That, according to all sources, they've been working behind the scenes since he first went to America, which is, you know, a bit of Sun Tzu out of war. You know, AJ loves a good Sun Tzu quote. He's forever fucking quoting Sun Tzu. Is Anthony Joshua, like, you know what I mean? There's genius in silence. What a freak. But yeah, I don't know. I think if it goes to the cards, Usyk might be in trouble. There's a lot of people that have invested a lot of money into Anthony Joshua's career, and it's not going to be good for them. Mainly the shareholders in the zone. If he doesn't fucking win this fight, man, how is Eddie going to go back and say we're going to market him now as a pay-per-view star if he loses? They needed a winnable fight for him before to kick that deal into play, surely. And it's a strange deal for the zone to make for a guy whose career is on this trajectory, if you get me. Like, it's, we fucking surely need to see AJ back to win the rematch before you make multi-million-dollar offers for him. Like, before we'd heard before that he was going to stay at Sky for life. Well, he's with Sky at the moment through no fault of his own for this fight. But in terms of the fight I think Oz made a good point about what AJ looks like when he got hit, and I alluded to this last week. I feel like we've been previewing this fight for fucking 6 months because there's been nothing else on, and it's finally here. I said before, I think AJ can make adjustments with Garcia offensively. I definitely think he can make subtle changes to him to make him into a better fighter. Is he going to be able to make him into a fighter that can beat Usyk? I don't think so. I think Usyk can adjust too well on the fly. And even if AJ starts off with a game plan, once Usyk has a look at him and start working him out and figuring him out, he'll just start pot shotting him. And Oz is onto something there, and I said this before as well. You can change whatever you want about AJ. You can get his hands held high, you can get him pumping the jab, you can get him slipping side to side, you can get him to be more offensive, you can get him to work the clinch more. But what you can't fucking do with him is get him a gas tank and change how he reacts when he gets hit. Now, they did that with Tommy Hearns over the years. You look at Manny did that over Tommy when in the first fight with Sugar Ray Leonard. Hearns is all over the place, and if he had learned to hold against Leonard, he probably would have won that fight, and history would have been different. But I don't know if you can do that with AJ. He's shown 3, 4, 5 different times over his career. Once he gets tagged, as I said, he has a tail. He starts smiling. He'll start talking to the opponent. But more often than not, when he gets really clipped, he'll turn his back on his opponent. He turns his head away, he drops his hands, he sit on the ropes, he look to the ref, he look to the corner. And what's going to happen when he's in the thick of it in the heat in Dubai in fucking against a bulked up Usyk? Usyk is not going to be able to find him, if you get me. It's not like he's going to have trouble finding him. He will get to him at some stage. He will pop him. He will tag him. He will make him tired. And how is AJ going to react to getting hit? That's been different to what anything else he's done earlier in his career. So I think it'll be a slow start from both. Both will have a look at each other. I don't think Usyk will be in any particular hurry to go out and start trying to look for a stoppage or anything. I think it'll come when it comes, and I think it'll come probably around the last third of the fight. But I do think Usyk will stop him. And then where the fuck do we go from there? I do not know. But let us get to next Saturday and we'll see. But yeah, I was strong leanings towards Usyk in this fight. If AJ does knock him out, I'd have to give him credit. Hearn is talking about he should be acknowledged as a great if he beats Usyk. I would say if he beats Usyk, this is the first live dog he's ever beaten in his prime.
Big win, yeah.
It's the first live dog he's ever beaten in his prime, and you'd have to give him credit for that. I don't know if that makes him a great, but like I said, I do think there's only one winner in this fight. It's going to be Usyk.
Can I trouble you for a round, Rob, please?
Yeah, I'm thinking around round 9, somewhere around 9, 10.
Yeah, I'm going for round 9 as well. You're going round 10, aren't you, Smidge? Yeah?
I'm round 7. I think only live dog in his prime's a little bit harsh from Rob Kelly there.
Who are the other ones? I'll wait for you there. You can give me 180 of them.
No, they might have been in their prime, but they weren't very good. I think there's a little bit different.
Well, then they're not a live dog, Smid.
Parker, maybe, Smid?
Parker was the first name that come to mind for me. Ruiz the first time, but obviously he got beat by him. I mean, there ain't many, but I think that that was slightly unfair.
Yeah, I think a difference between live prime and live dog. That's fair enough. Matty is still making up his mind. Ozzy, did you give us a round again for your stoppage prediction, please?
8.
8 for Ozzy. Yeah, we're all going with the stoppage by the looks of it then, Andy. You're going stoppage as well? Any round kind of trouble?
Yeah, about round 10, 11, mate.
Round 10 or 11 for Andy. And Matty, you've deliberated long enough. Go on then. Are you going to be the divergent voice on the panel here? You're going for Joshua? Go on, Matty.
Matty's cashing his life insurance for his fight, man.
I feel like I have to. And I honestly think, just from a betting perspective, I think the smartest bet to probably make on this one is the under 10.5 rounds at even money. I think that takes out a little bit of the variables in this one because it's heavyweight boxing. And like I harp on, it is the theater of the unexpected. It's a different story with guys of this size, and everything logical says that Usyk should beat him. You guys think he's going to stop him, and that's just, it's, like I said, the books are kind of the toss up between the stoppage
Get on with it.
and
Just see your fucking Joshua, for fuck's sake.
and
Come
the
on.
points. And I just look, I just
Yes.
have the bulking up is a mistake. It's an absolute mistake.
I think you're right on that.
And if Usyk doesn't get him out, and if AJ doesn't do something stupid and throw too many punches early, if he fights measured like he needs to and throws the right punches to give Usyk troubles. Don't throw the jab when he's got his shoulder to you. Throw the jab when he turns the corner on you and take the left hand out of play, and also give yourself a chance to injure that shoulder. Instead of jamming it in, you work on separating it out. Throw that hard jab at the shoulder when he turns the corner on you. Make that a key point. But if Usyk doesn't have him out of there by the 7th and AJ fights measured, he's fucked. AJ stoppage.
What round? What? Give us a round then. Sorry, 7th. Did you say?
10.
10. Right. Okay. Matty's gone against everyone else, but that's good. That's what we like to hear. If you are in the Patreon, by the way, excuse me, patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. We're going to have a Nutters call in on Thursday evening, probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'll chair that. So if you want to have your say, jump on that call, and you are very welcome. If you're a super chatter or a Patreon, whatever it's called, you can jump on with us there. The undercard is mad, as Smido's mentioned. I want to get on with things as quick as I can because we've got Browen and Navarrete Bellew the weeks to come up, and I want to get out of here pretty sharpish. So I'll give each of you a fight on the undercard to talk about, and then to be as swift as you can. First of all, we'll go to you, Aussie. Callum Smith, good to see him back in the ring. He's going in against Matteo Bordelik, old Mr. Borderline himself, 21-1. Has wins over the familiar faces, Dudu and Gumbu, Igor Michalkin. Anything on Bordelik's record you think to suggest that he's going to get past Callum Smith? For all of his faults and his inactivity, Smith can punch like a mule.
Yeah, no. Basically, I think it's a good fight for what's it called, for Smith. Not the biggest of punches is Borderlik, solid. I think Smith will get him out of there, actually, and I think he'll look good in doing that. Final eliminator, isn't it, for Beterbiev's belt? So interesting. Smith's been quite vocal wanting the Beterbiev fight, which, good. I mean, you're in a final eliminator, so you want to fight the champion. Don't mind the fight. I think it's, it's decent. It's solid. Borderlik's, coming off a couple of good wins. Smith inactive. I think just a bizarre career, Callum Smith, and he earned a truckload of money. But one of them that if he retired tomorrow, I don't think anybody would be really upset. He's one of those fighters that never really, from I don't really care about profiles and stuff, but I don't think he ever captured the eye of many people, if that makes sense. He had, won that World Boxing Super Series. Did anybody care about it? No. Had that real controversial, win result against John Ryder, and basically was left, but people just angered by it and disliked him even more. He's just a fighter that, bags of talent, hits hard, but does anyone care about him? Not really, apart from, the Smith family and a few others. He'll come through on Saturday. I think he'll knock Borderlik out, and I think it'll be quite early as well, probably, the first half of the fight. And then, he moves on to basically the winner of Anthony Hard against Artur Beterbiev, which is set to happen, I think, in October. So, a decent enough scrap, better than what I thought the undercard would be, this one. So, it is what it is. I think Smith will win.
Borderlik has a fair amount of early and mid-round stoppages, and the over-under on this fight is 8.5 rounds. I think it's an easy pick on the under.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Smith, a little bit of an underwhelming career, as Ozzy says. Always strikes me as someone who maybe doesn't like boxing, but he's pretty good at it. Andy, two big heavyweights going at it on the undercard. Filip Hrgović, at least he's active. I suppose that's all we can say. Against Zhilei Zhang, he's found his level, Zhang, but I'm quite pleased to see Hrgović finally getting a fight and finally moving on. We know what Zhang's all about, but if Hrgović can get rid of him, or they can have a decent tear up for 10 rounds or however long it lasts, it'll maybe put the winner in a bit of a stronger position.
Oh, is it a final eliminator for? Is it the IBF? Do we know
Yeah, I
about this
think. Well,
one?
originally Hergovich was supposed to fight Hunter in the IBF final eliminator. I think Zhang has now been posted in
Yeah.
that place. Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, of course, there was a number of people who dropped out. To be honest, mate, we'll wait and see how it goes. I think Hergovich obviously probably would win. I'm not too sure how the outcome. Zhang is a big dude, and Hergovich is pretty basic. Maybe that's just straight shot him on it. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 12-round kind of snooze fest here. To be fair, I read something that Zhang just arrived there recently as well, so I don't know how he's going to
Yesterday,
go with the heat. Yeah, yesterday, aye.
With his renal failure as well, Andy. It doesn't bode well, does it?
I know. So, who knows, mate? It could be one of those. It could be one of those 12-round snooze fest, or it could be like he's just turning up and Hergovich just turns him over. It could be one of those. Definitely going with the Hergovich win, regardless. But yeah, look, end of the day, mate, I'm only watching the card for one thing and one thing only, and it's not going to be this one, unfortunately.
It's all about the main event.
You gotta think with the way that Pulev absolutely walked Jerry Forrest, that just shows the level of Zhang, and he's gonna get smoked.
That's probably his
He's
best result
fucking
here.
shit, man. He's absolutely dire, mate. I don't even know why. Like, he's literally got this fight because every fucker said no. He's fucking rubbish. Big bang Zile Zhang. He's crap. You know, he's overweight. He's a big slob. Ain't he the one that had fucking heat exhaustion in the corner or something like that?
Renal
You know,
failure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fucked. Absolutely fucked. The fact this is a final eliminator for a world title is laughable. Absolutely laughable. He's shite. And Hergovich, if he doesn't blitz him in 3 rounds, should be just hung out to dry. You know, like, Zhang's rubbish. Absolute garbage. And, you know, he's not a good fighter. He's not got any good wins on his record at all. Andre Rudenko's probably his best win. You know, he's just a bit of a steady Eddie, European level sort of guy who just absorbs shots. That's it. You know, Hergovich.
He's been impressed with Hergovich at all in his pro career.
Underwhelming.
Yeah, I would say
lacks
so.
momentum.
Very underwhelming.
Should be Alan Babbage in there against him.
Yeah, but he's some retarded guy.
I thought when he blitzed Amir Mansour, I think he left Mansour in a bad way. I thought it was a pretty decent performance. There's a lot of hype about Hergovich, you know, and yeah, it's fair to say that he's not really boxed anybody of note either. You know, I'm looking at his record now, you know, Kingpin Johnson, Mansour, big sexy Sean Turner. Remember him, Steve? Big Sean Turner. Yeah. But yeah, he's not really got any notable wins as such. But Zile Zhang is of a level from what Hergovich has been boxing at. Hergovich has boxed, you know, extremely well as an amateur. Hits hard, clearly. Big lad, well built. Steady enough, you know, technique, that sort of stuff. And Zhang is just made for him, innit? Big lump, crap, no gas tank. And he might hit him that hard, he gets renal failure again.
Let's hope so. Zile Zhang against Filip Hergovich on the undercard there. Here's one for you, Rob. We've got Badu Jack on the undercard. That's always a good time up at cruiserweight. Going in against Connecticut's Richard Rivera. He's 21-0, Rob, with 16 knockouts. 4 fights ago, he had a first-round knockout over Ryan Soft. Who saw that first-round knockout coming? And his nickname is Popeye the Sailor Man. So this could be a good novelty fight for Badu.
Pluto just fucking giving him fucking spinach in between olive oil as he's in the corner. It was a bit of an upset that the Ryan Soft one, because his nickname is Not So. Fuck me. Badu Jack, if we're going prediction league on this, I'm going to say draw, Steve.
It is not prediction league.
No, it's not prediction league, don't worry.
Yeah, it's a joke, Matty.
I just want to say I'm not that sick.
He's not that bad, Rob. Come on.
No. I don't know what way fucking that fight's going to go. Fuck me, man. Who knows? I've never seen the guy Badu Jack's fighting at cruiserweight. I like Badu Jack, though. I tell you what, he's fighting at what did you say? Sorry, Steve. He's fighting at cruiserweight.
Oh, he's up at cruiser now. Oh, I do, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was a decent fighter, actually, Badu Jack, man. He was in a good couple of scraps in his day. He's a hardy competitor. And he had a bit of talent. It was just kind of fucking fell off the face of the flat earth there a few years ago, didn't he? Like,
I tell you what, Rob, he's enjoying himself up at cruiserweight. Anyway, he's come in just shy of £200 in his last 2 outings.
Fucking hell, he's piling on the weight, his Badu, man. He's enjoying this fucking end of career fucking world tour, is he? Yeah, well, good on him, man. I hope he gets a fucking few quid for himself, Badu. Good guy. No interest in the fucking fight, though, and I won't watch it.
There we are. Rob Kelly isn't going to be watching that one. Matty, I was
the Swedes.
He hates the Swedes.
Love the Swedes, man. Excuse yourself, I love the Swedes.
great bunch of tall blonde lads.
As much as I'd love to move the undercard on Matty, I'm not going to inflict this on you. Instead, to keep the show moving, I'm going to go on to another show which is taking place next weekend in the Pachanga Arena, San Diego. ESPN finally with a 12-rounder in the main event, so they're going to keep Wellings happy. Emmanuel Navarrete defending his WBO World Featherweight title. He's 35-1 with a good knockout streak. He beat Isaac Dogbo a few fights ago. He's been relatively active up until recently. He's going in against Eduardo Baez, who I seem to remember fought a couple of fights ago against Asylum. Came on strong in that fight, forced it to a majority decision. So Baez, even though he's got a couple of losses, a couple of draws on the record, I think he's a pretty solid live competitor against Navarrete. And it'll be interesting to see if Navarrete can go where Alim didn't, Matty, and get Baez out of there.
Yeah, Baez is at least a good-sized featherweight all in all, and but you got to think that Navarrete's coming in here for the stoppage again. Baez is definitely on that second bottom tier kind of things. It's just an accessible fight. It's just this card just not doing it for me, Steve. I think this is a miss by Top Rank. I think they had one good prospect on there. Maybe you could
Nico Ali Walsh.
No. I think it might have been further down than that. Maybe I'm wrong. 135-pound fight might have been a different card.
Xavier Martinez is on it, and I think Lindolfo Delgado or something. I think he's on it.
Yeah, I don't think it was either of those. But, I mean, it's not much. And Navarrete is going to go in there. I expect a stoppage. He's a huge favorite in this fight. And I like to see him in some better fights along the way. But I'm struggling. I think I'll tell you the fight that I think I'm looking forward to, and I think Bob is looking at here eventually is going to be him and Rabizi Ramirez. I think that's the fight that's going to happen that actually makes me interested.
Matty's not interested, but we'll move on from that card. On to AB Fight Week. Adrian Broner's back in action over in, where are we? Seminole Hard Rock Casino in Florida. Tom Brown Boxing Promotions is putting this one on for the PBC. We'll have a look at the undercard shortly, but let's get straight onto the main event then. We've got to start with you, Andy, of course. Old AB, another former world champion for AB, albeit a faded one, Omar Figueroa. At least he's back in the ring. He's active. It seems like these two have been destined to fight for years. Now it's finally happening. Praise the boxing gods. Is this part of a final run for Broner, do you think, Andy? Or has that ship sailed? We know what he is by now, and Uncle Al's getting him a payday. What's going on here?
I don't know, mate, to be fair. Broner, look, best of luck to him next week. I probably think he probably wins. Somehow they've managed to get a belt on the line for this fight. Figueroa, I've not seen him for a few years, to be fair. And that he was generally one that's bad at cutting the weight and generally bad for getting cut during fights as well, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's always on the piss, wasn't
he? Yeah, true. Notoriously bad for cutting weight. Probably got a few favours in that as well on some scorecards. Broner as well. Look, I know he had a fight, was it early last year, I think it was. He's fucking numerous problems with weight, other issues, drink, gambling, personal life problems, all this type of stuff. So again, it's probably good that he is back just to try and get some sort of kind of regimen in his life rather than just frittering it all away and pissing it all away. But I think this is, whether it's a last run or not, mate, I think if he wins this fight, they'll trade the name value, they'll slip him into a fight. What is he fighting at 140, I think this fight's at?
You know what? I heard it's another one of them catch rates, Andy. Aren't they trying to make it like 144 or something?
Fuck's sake. Well, I just pulled up box right there, and they say they've got this fight for WBC silver super lightweight title.
Fuck's sake.
So that's what there's 140 anyway. Unless you say if there's a catch weight, why is that belt even on the line?
Unless it was a spoof, and Andy, it might have been a spoof post. It could well have been.
True enough. I just want to see a quick look at the rankings, see if they've maybe even got Broner even ranked at this point actually. Which you couldn't have really. Nah, I don't see him anywhere ranked.
On
so really,
this is not ranked anywhere, no.
Yeah, so really, if he wins this, I would imagine he's probably got a top 15 ranking around about the WBC. I would probably say Brunner wins. He'll win on points. I don't know. I don't say it with any great authority as well. I mean, obviously Figueroa's had issues with his weight. He can get cut. He can maybe get stopped on that, on that matter. I've seen him retire in fights. Maybe it's with injuries, that type of thing as well. He's been prone to having problems as well, Figueroa, I'm sure. But I think Broner probably wins the fight, mate. I think he wins it on points. We know what his limitations are. We know what he's all about. But again, we just know what he's at. Mentally, physically, as a boxer at this point. So we just need to see him in the ring. And if he's going to be active, at least, if he maybe tries and gets maybe 3 fights in over the next 6 to 9 months, then we could maybe say he's active. Other than that, I just think he's coming back for the paycheck, to be fair. As I say, if he wins this fight, I think it gets him in line for some sort of, at least being an opponent as such, for a final eliminator at least.
Broner back in the mix, that's what we like to see. Figueroa, yeah, he's had his problems outside of the ring. He has one of the oddest cross-arm styles I've seen. Ozzy, if he has any chance, he needs to set a pace that Broner's not comfortable with. If they fight at Broner's pace, Figueroa won't win because Broner will just pick him off with classy shots. You've got to put it on, throw a lot of punches, and just get stuck into AB because he'll just pick you off if you don't.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think he can do that. I mean, Figueroa's a dosser, isn't he? You know, he just... He has no care for anything whatsoever. He misses weight repeatedly. He's had generous wins. I actually thought Ricky Burns gave him a really good fight and was massively done on the cards. And I thought Lawrence Cole had a bit of a stinker that night.
That was a hell of a fight. It's a shame that the decision was shit because it fucked up a good night.
I've got to. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to go as far as saying that I actually thought Burns won a relatively close fight because it was nowhere near like the. I think one of them gave like Burns 2 rounds on the cards, and yeah, he's just he's one of those fighters. Another one, just a pillock. You know, no one cares about him. He misses weight. He's more known for cocking up in the ring than actually performing because he has no commitment. He's now against AB. The problem. He has plenty of problems. I wonder what he's getting paid for this because he makes outrageous statements about not wanting wanting the big paydays. But I think he'll pick Figueroa off. Don't think he'll stop him. I think it'll just be. I don't think it'll be a great fight really. I think it'll be a wide points win for Broner. Be interesting to see where they go with that. If Broner gets back active again, I really wouldn't be surprised if Matchroom made a play for him to be a Conor Benn opponent. I really wouldn't.
Been talked about
that. Yeah, they did. Yeah, but that was when Broner was like, fucking hell. We saw him at ringside. He's got a big fucking belly, in like a kid's white t-shirt. That's skin tight and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. And then he's kicking off with people, and you just think, well, this is why they want to fight because he's an absolute no mark and he's all over the place. But if he gets back into shape now, I've not seen any footage of him. So I don't know what he's like. What weight? What did we say? Is that 144?
Something.
Is that what the catch weight is?
I think so.
Maybe a belt line, so 140 apparently.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see. Really,
I don't see
interesting,
either of those fighters making 140.
No, exactly. Particularly Figueroa as well. He's probably doing the Andy Ruiz diet and smashing tacos now before the weigh-in at the weekend. But yeah. He'll. I think Broner wins a relatively comfortable decision, to be honest, and that is AB back in the game, much to Andy's delight. Then,
yeah, AB on points for Ozzy, AB on points for Andy. Also for me, Matty, if you're keeping a score, which no doubt you are, I'm going for AB on points as well. We'll come to you shortly. Before we do so, Rapimo Kelly. AB's been out the ring for 18 months, but to put that to one side, an interesting side note. In Figueroa's corner, maybe we'll see his sister, Omaira Figueroa, who once turned up to a weigh-in wearing a pink catsuit, Rob. It went viral.
Well, I hope we do see more of her now, to be honest with you. There's more, we need more.
But we can't spin it off as well.
We need this. This is what we need. Yeah, that's a fucking solid box rec ranking from Rob Kelly for Omaira Figueroa. Probably more interested in seeing her than Figueroa versus Broner at this stage. I was just thinking, actually, when you were giving the intro to this, I remember one Sunday, I was living in Enniscorthy at the time, so it's got to be 8 years ago, so it predates my time being on the pod, but listening to to the Asylum. I think it was after Broner had lost to Porter, and he had a flash knockdown, I think, against Porter in the 11th round or something. But it just kind of encapsulated everything about Broner's career post moving up to welterweight that time. Since Maidana, I think he's had 2 stoppages, maybe 1. It could be 1. I think it's Ashley Theophane and was it Emmanuel Taylor? But I think he might have even... Did he just outpoint Emmanuel Taylor as well?
Struggled with Taylor. He hasn't beat anyone convincingly since Malignaggi, I would actually say, Rob.
I think Theophane. I think he stopped Theophane after that, but that was a fucking mismatch
He
anyway.
did almost make Taylor do a backflip in that last round. That was a smoking fucking uppercut he landed on him.
That's right. He struggled. That was the fight, and he left it late. But I think he dropped. Did he drop Porter late on?
Yeah, he dropped Porter in the.
He dropped Porter actually pretty good, Rob. You know what? You bring up a good point there. The shot he landed on Porter made me think at the time, why wasn't he throwing his hands like that beforehand? Because that was prime AB if he just let the hands go.
Well, there was a stage. There was a stage, where I liked Broner as a lightweight. I thought he was very exciting. I think I soured on him when he moved up to fight Malignaggi. That was a stinker, by the way. That was a stinker. And Malignaggi, he was very lucky to get the decision that night, I think, against Malignaggi. If he had any pop at all, he probably would have got it on the cards that night. Malignaggi, did a lot of good body work and everything. And Broner at the time looked like no heir to the Mayweather throne. He was a flat-footed plotter. And since then, his career has just been absolute Earl Spence, hasn't it? Earl Spence in a fucking Lambo, complete car crash. He's had some good sound bites over the years, shut that soft that shit up, and I did it for the hood no, and all this. I beat that boy, but it's got to the point where it's almost tragic looking at him now for me. There was a time, I used to look at, and every time he'd come off a loss or a bad performance, Fight Hype, Ellie Seckback would be following him around, and Fight Hype would be showing footage of him in the gym, and all he's got is just total yes men around him. They're all going, yeah, champ, ooh, and in the sparring footage, and he's beating up, looking terrible, by the way, in these sparring sessions, beating up fellas who shouldn't be in the ring with him. I just think everything is wrong for a prize fighter. As Ozzy said, he's got loads of prize. That should be his new nickname. It should be Adrian Multiple Problems Broner, because everything has gone wrong for him. As Bill O'Hurley, the RTE pundit, used to say, he's instrumental in his own downfall. He's the main man to blame for where his career went compared to where it should have gone. But it's just a bit tragic for me at this stage. I mean, he's lost so much braid. He's had so many legal woes. His fucking behavior and antics outside of the ring, the sex tapes in the limo, the OnlyFans, the gambling, asking people for money on Cash App, getting filmed drunk, smacking women. He's just got the full fucking repertoire, hasn't he?
He's
for
a fucking
disaster.
douchebag.
So I'm not convinced he even wins next week. I think his inactivity and everything is gonna come back and haunt him. And I think 18 months out of the ring for a fella whose previous activity levels weren't exactly through the roof. He's been up and down the weights. He hasn't lived the life. 18 months out of the ring, hasn't stopped anybody in fucking pushing 10 years. I think he's there for the taking. I think this will be a Figueroa points win.
Figueroa points win there for Rob. Yeah, the boys in the chat saying Malignaggi wasn't a convincing win. I wasn't thinking of Malignaggi. I can't remember who I was thinking of. Maybe it was Akhmed Daliev or somebody, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, all the points Rob makes are good points, Matty, but the thing is, Figueroa's also been out the ring for nearly 18 months, and the last time we saw him, he was getting beaten up by Abel Ramos, losing every single round before he got retired. I can't remember what it was. He was doing that daft cross-arm defense, wasn't he? Getting beaten up against the ropes.
Jim Carrey and Me, Myself.
Oh yeah, man. He looked like he had palsy or something. He looked. I don't know what was going on with that. But so I mean, he's not coming in any great shakes either, is he? To be honest.
No, but I tend to lean with Rob, and it's just based on the fact that Figueroa, when he's anywhere near what you would consider his peak level, he throws a lot of punches, and if there is anything that is Adrian Broner's kryptonite, it's activity. I almost want to say that Figueroa will stop him just because his Broner keeps going up and down and weight up.
Nobody
and down
stops Broner.
and
Come
he's
on,
got he's got a good beard. He's got a good beard. He's only been dropped a couple times and all by Big Puncher. But I'm going with Rob. I'll go with the points. Part of me wants to say a draw. Part of me wants to say stoppage, but I just think that I think Broner's done, and I hate both of these fighters passionately. But one of them's got to lose, and I think it's Broner.
Okay, so on the undercard, I'll bring you in, Matty, because I know that we're doing bits and pieces with the predictions. I think it's a good undercard, actually. Roger Gutierrez is defending this WBA, I don't even know what title it is at this point, 130-pound championship against Hector Luis Garcia, who stepped in for Gutierrez and upset Chris Colbert last time out. Also, Alberto Puello, who was one of the fellas who the WBA ordered at 140 to make this little little PowerPoint presentation as to why you should be the number one. Well, Puello must have made a pretty good case because he's fighting Beta Akhmedov, who I think once fought competitively with Mario Barrios for the vacant WBA title, which was last owned by Josh Taylor. Also, Sergio Lipinets is on the undercard, and Brandon Lee, who was supposed to fight Will Madera on the Jake Paul Hasim Rahman undercard, finally gets a spot on here, but we won't see him in action. Pretty solid stuff on the undercard, Matty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the prelim stuff might be on the PBC YouTube channel. I could be incorrect, but I think you'll be able to catch that. I think because they definitely want to give Brandon Lee some coverage. He's the guy they're pushing a little bit. He's moved up from lightweight to junior welterweight. I think you got to favor Akhmedov in that fight against Puello. He's just got the higher level of opposition. He has that one loss on his resume against Barrios. Barrios is a different animal with his height and reach. Puello is a bit bigger fighter, but I don't think that he can pull off what Barrios did. I don't think he has the punch. And I think Akhmedov is going to pull that off just fine. The Gutierrez fight, man, I like Roger Gutierrez. He is an under-the-radar guy with some decent wins. But at the same time, it just feels like he could be there for the picking. And that performance Garcia came in with against Colbert, Steve. I mean, he didn't just beat Colbert. He dropped him and basically blanked him.
Wasn't he an Olympian, though, Matt? He had underrated skills, I think.
He came in just kind of under the radar, and he's a Dominican fighter, and the Dominicans, they very often disappoint. The only one who ever came anywhere close off the top of my head to achieving what people thought of him was Yohan Guzman, and he was 2 fucking hamburgers away from losing it all at all times, right? So it's one of those things, and so it makes me question. I hate questioning by nationality. I don't like lumping people in a basket there. But I tell you what, man, I think Garcia's got this one. I'm leaning that direction. I think I'm gonna go with it on points.
There we are, Garcia on points over Gutierrez. That is the undercard itself. I think we covered all bases then for episode 487.
Well, you guys got to pick on that one too, Steve.
On which one?
That Gutierrez fight. We're doing 3 because of the fucking farmer bullshit.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, so what have we picked so far? We picked Usyk Joshua,
Broner Figueroa,
and we have to do a third one this week in lieu of
I got pissed off, and I bet one of these gets canceled too. So I hedge our bets.
Right. Go on, Rob.
Who cares?
Here he is, old sex ring in the Eucharist. Okay, then. So Garcia Gutierrez, you're going for Garcia on points, then, Matty? Yeah.
Jaw.
Yeah, I'm going for that too.
Yeah,
I'm going for that too. I think Garcia will have enough for Gutierrez, Aussie, but it'll be a good fight. Who are you going for quickly?
Agree with you.
That's 4 for Garcia on points. Andy, what about you?
4 said.
Ooh, there we are. Then, Matty, you got everything you need, all the info, all the intel.
What did Andy just say there?
Yeah, 5 for Garcia on points.
Well, then I'll just erase it because then it doesn't matter. So that one's gone anyways. Everyone's Garcia points.
There we are, Garcia Gutierrez. Who gives a shit about you two? Not us, anyway.
I bet you he's coming as an underdog on that one too. I didn't see the odds on that. Lots of other odds out, but I bet you that he's coming in the underdog.
He might well be. I'm looking forward to it. Showtime, as always, delivering. Okay, let's get on to the Bay of the Week. Then Andy's still with us, so is Ozzy, Matty, Rob Kelly. We've lost Smido, unfortunately, gone but not forgotten. Lewis Kelly, listener of the pod, shout out to him, sent in this little Chris Eubank Senior clip to lead us into Bellew of the Weeks this week in honour of Eubank Jr. versus Ben Jr. Here's Senior himself back in the day in all his glory.
My first mare addressed them first in good Welsh and then in fluent English. like groaning to oneself on Sunday morning in chapel, close before the second psalm. Well, what on earth did the mayor do? I was coming to that. You see, he broke wind. He broke wind, the priest, druids, broke wind. Yeah. My story.
You know what, Chris? You must have got a whole heap of shit in your head, you know. Because the way it's circling in your head is unbelievable.
Got some knowledge in there, rude boy.
The way that you can hold something in there.
Okay, listen, I don't want to.
That's not a load of shit. When it comes to go placidly and you do memorize certain stuff like that, that's real, that's deep, that's like proper, but shit like that last one.
No, that's not. No, listen. That's a shit. Listen.
No, it's a story. I ain't got the fucking clue what you're on about, man.
Hello. Live footage of Maddie.
What the fuck did I do?
Poor Matty even getting dragged into Chris Eubank Senior stories from 30 years ago.
That's fucked up. I have nothing to do with this fucking nonsense.
Classic Eubank, man. He does talk some shit, Andy, though, doesn't he?
So, here you go. Well, I'll take this moment. Hey, I gotta, because Rob loves my joke. I got a new one I wrote up, Rob.
Well, wait a minute. I'll give you a quick story, Matt. You probably heard about Eubank before.
Jesus Christ!
It's like just how fucking nuts he is, right? So apparently at the Brighton, I forget the name of the big hotel in Brighton, big fucking swanky place anyway, right? Eubank at this point is retired, long forgotten, right? Somehow, or for some reason, strips down his underpants, walks down through the ballroom, down through the spiraling staircase into the restaurant. He's getting his interview done at the time or whatever that, right? And people are fucking looking at this 6 feet black guy in white undies walking down the fucking stairs, and he turns to the guy who's like fucking following him and says, "Look, yeah, they still remember me."
I'm sure they do.
Jesus Christ.
Of course they're going to remember. You're standing there with your fucking balls hanging out your pants, you fucking dimwit. Your
He's class, Eubank. I could listen to him all day talk. He's absolutely quality. Like some of the stuff some of the stuff he comes out with, and like, you know, and he does. Do you remember when he did the corner for Junior, and he didn't say a word, and he just started shadow boxing in the corner, like he's in this fucking fancy suit and stuff like that.
Of the ring. Remember, he stood out.
Yeah, he was like such a leather vest, wasn't he, or something?
Yeah, he was in like a leather vest, pants, and like these fucking black boots. You just got Junior face like a slap tart in the corner. Ronnie Davies putting a bit of grease and stuff, and you know, giving him a bit of water. And then you've got Senior just popping out jabs and stuff like that, you know, moving around for the minute. And then he gets out and doesn't say a word. It's just like he's a parrot. He's a parody. He's like a cartoon character, but he is fucking gold.
Why does everything he does make him look like a gay prostitute?
To be honest, mate, I don't think many of us have a clue what they look like, so you'll have to shed some light on why you know what these people do look like.
They walk down the stairs in their underwear, and they wear fucking black boots and leather vests, and somehow look posh and effeminate at the same time, while being in very good shape. That's what a gay prostitute looks like.
You know far too much about these things, Matty.
Well, remember to raise that to him next time.
I watch all sorts of fucking great movies and documentaries.
Chuck Cruise hard drive.
Anyways,
yeah, I was going to say it's all coming out tonight, isn't it? It's all coming from the US as well.
Well, but yeah, check this out though. Like, you know, some of our parents were like trendsetters. Like, Rob, did you know that your mom was playing Pokemon Go 40 years ago? Except the Pokemon were STDs, and she caught them all.
Any other jokes from your dead mother and all?
Your mom jokes are for everybody. I wouldn't be prejudiced against the living, Rob.
Bringing the humour into Value of the Week. Well, let's get us back on track. Go on, Rob.
Remember Eubank a couple of years ago? He was like, some interview was some journalist was giving him a dead serious interview, and they were like, "So, Chris, what have you been up to?" And he was like, "Police work." And they were like, "What?" He was like, "Yes, it's Zimbabwe." It's like fucking cracking
Zimbabwe.
something like that.
Do you
Like some
remember?
African country, he was doing police work. He said he was. I don't know
Do
what the
do you
police work
remember
was.
Sheriff
Tail
in
or
English.
Do you remember? Yeah, do you remember he got Sheriff Eubank? He got that fucking badge,
That's
and he was
right, he had a
walking.
sheriff's badge, like fucking Brave
Yeah,
Star.
he did. Do you remember he had a sheriff's badge, but I'm sure it was legit or something like that. I forget where it was in the US where he got
He was
it.
gifted it, wasn't he?
Was
Ozzy,
it
or
the
something?
same
I think.
Yeah.
place that Steven Seagal was
You
doing it?
fucking bought it at Toys R
Yeah.
Us, for Christ's sake.
It's
Yeah.
damn it. It's ridiculous. Like at least
This-
he's in
it was-
decent shape now. Seagal's a fucking blimp.
It was in Louisiana, and he was what was his name? It just said it then. What was he? He was Sergeant Eubank for the day, and he got the sheriff's badge.
Hi, Josh Ford here says sheriff in New Orleans. Flip me. You'd be busy
Was
enough
that what
there
it
as a
was?
sheriff there, I'd say.
Yeah. But then somebody else thinking. Do you remember youth hostel?
Reggie Hammond.
Yeah, youth hosteling with Chris Eubank as well, and he was on that that program singing "Kumbaya," and he's just dancing around like with these people singing the singing the song and stuff like that. It was absolutely class. He's so funny to watch, you know, like what he does and stuff. He's unbelievable.
Yes, Eubank leading us into Belly of the Weeks for 487. Let's see what else we've got thrown in. Quite a few this week. Can't get to them all, but we tried our best. Blanco Bryce has nominated Fight Hub Marcos. This is Marcos Villegas. He's quite the character. He's happy with Eubank Ben. He says, relax. This is Eubank Jr. versus Ben fight. He's good. But some people acting like this is Duran versus Ray Leonard or something. He got 258 likes, so you never know. You might be onto something. Here's a story from this week as well that you might have been all over, Matty. Tyson Fury, once again, the most boring troll in boxing. Breaking news, trainer selected for comeback fight with Derek Warchizora. Isaac Lowe, Matty. Tyson, me new pupil. He's ready for to rumbled. Hands rape ready.
And then Fury retired afterwards, and God knows what the fuck is going on. It's
a joke, isn't it? Like,
I don't even know, Steve. Like, between the English and the drunkenness and the constant changes of attitudes and stuff like this, it's tough to be on the Fury train right now, and especially with Isaac Lowe driving, who probably can't read a road sign.
You'll end up somewhere anyway, Rob. He's boring as fuck, man. He's doing me head in, to be honest.
Yeah, and do you know what? Big up Simon Jordan, who's become the kind of voice of reason in the mainstream fucking space. Like, he seems to be covering a lot of boxing the other day, but John Fury was on, you know, singing the praises of the Derek Chisora potential fight. That Simon Jordan was like, nobody wants to see this fight. Nobody at all. And he was like, Fury needs to get a new shtick as well, instead of fucking coming out and saying, you know, sign the contract, you dasser. It's fucking boring, man. Like, it's just coincidentally AJ's fight week, innit? Like, so maybe that's what he's at. Like,
oh yes, good point. Didn't even notice that. Good spot from Rapping Rob Kelly there. KSI returns, Andy, to the ring, 27th, live on DAZN Boxing. It's banter boxing.
Pay-per-view.
DAZN pay-per-view. Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I see it in the
pay-per-view.
background there. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
tenner, I think it is, isn't it? Tenner or something like that.
Yeah.
I tell you what, game changed.
They're a fucking disgrace. Absolutely. And guess who's involved? That cartoon character himself, Callus Sowland, with this one as well. He's just he's a chip shot promoter. Him. I don't care. He's involved with this Eubank fight. He's a chip shot promoter. He's not in the business of making big fights.
He's not really looking too good these days, old Cali boy. I think he's been burning the
Fucking
candle
ready
at
to
both
explode,
ends.
I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, literally, when he's sniffing, you know, like copious amounts of cocaine and then he's probably pumping loads of steroids in him, it's not going to go down well for you, is it? And that's all he does.
No, he's keeping himself busy. Talking to DAZN, Aussie, here we go. August 27 update, by the way, in case you were wondering. KSI is no longer fighting Alex Wasabi. He's now fighting Swarms, and FaZe Temper is going in against Slim for the ICB World Light Heavyweight Championship, live on DAZN pay-per-view.
Who the fuck are these cunts?
Who are these people?
DAZN must have
Steve,
fucking
we
blew
need to
all
see
the...
this
All
belt,
the
mate.
DAZN after blowing all the fucking graphic design money on the AJ deal, are they? What's the poster there?
Are we missing out here? Like, is there money available on pay-per-view with our audience and boxing for me to go, for me to fly overseas and box Rob on an undercard of something? Is there money available for this? We've been missing out.
Get the super chats in with you. Come on, get him in.
With low kicks, Rob. With low kicks.
Great. Now I fucked up, and Rob's got inspiration from his mom. This is shit.
He's coming over to fight Swarms. No, I haven't seen the belt, Andy. I'm assuming it's a duel.
Oh, by monstrosity, some shite, mate.
If my sister knew we made that joke about me, ma, you'd have to fucking fight her instead.
They are, Matty. Women's boxing. You're all over it. Get in there, chicks with dig.
This will actually go back to my. This will go back to my love of Andy Kaufman and his intergender wrestling championships that he had in the 70s.
Oh, DAZN. Pay-per-view's dead, but not apparently on August the 27th. Adam Abramovich said so much left unsettled in the two Fury Chisora fights. The third fight would clear up all of that. Scott Nichols says the first two were just Derek Chisora, though, Adam. This is the War Chisora version. Different proposition, Ozzy.
Well, I don't even know what to say. The fucking clowns. They're just, you know, I mean, like fucking nicknames and spellings, you know, different. Scott Nichols hasn't got a fucking clue. Hasn't got a fucking clue.
What's Abramovich even saying that were clear? Is he being sarcastic there? Because
I think he's trolling.
Yeah, he's got to be.
I hope. On that one, I certainly.
I'm disappointed, Matty. Abramovich has got rid of his LinkedIn pen pick. Where's that gone?
He blocked me for something that Adam Abramovich. I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
He used to come on the pod back in Matty's day.
He did. Yeah.
But no.
I'll tell the maggot to unblock me and he can come back on and we can debate.
Get him on. Maybe get her on. Eye on the target, blonde bomber. She's doing a bit of archery. Sahal Sadiq hasn't got his eye on the target. My eyes are on your boobs, he says.
You know what, mate? You've just got to applaud it sometimes. I mean, you know, he's gone straight to the point. None of this, you know, like pussyfooting about. So Hale is just being honest.
Oh dear. Paul Raftery is nominated this one.
I'm just impressed you said boobs and not bobs. Like, you know, but the Indian guys and their searching bobs and machine, they're going to overtake the world. I mean, you talk about straight to the point. There's no bullshit with these guys.
No bullshit at all. Straight in there. Coogan Cassius, maybe trying to interview Tony Bellew during the Everton versus Chelsea game wasn't the best idea. Paul Raftery has his suspicions here, though, Andy. Early Bellew of the week. Bellew being filmed watching Everton, pretending for attention to get worked up for the first game of the season. Just leave him alone, let him watch the match.
Real fans would have been at the stadium, mate, watching the game rather than getting fucking filmed. What's
he commenting for anyway? None of his business. He's never played Premier League football.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
His views on the Premier League aren't worth the carrot.
Yeah. Did you watch some of that video though? It was cringe. It was so set up. It was so set up. It was just embarrassing to watch. Embarrassing.
I tell you what, Coogs' content's no fucking picking up these days, is it? It's no really kind of churning.
It's garbage, man.
Access issues. Who would have thought?
He's in Uzbekistan. He's going to be first class over to Saudi Arabia soon. I wonder how he's paying for that, but his water bill quicking up through the roof.
Well, let's hope there's a legitimate. Anyway, that's all I'm saying. Anyway,
yeah.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so.
Great bunch of guys.
Franny has nominated these lot for the exchange. Too long to go into now, but it ended in Mackenzie Kirchhoff calling Tommy Hearns a bum, but a bigger bum. So there you go. That's what he thinks about Bucks. You know, Hara Davis has been, I think he's trolling again, isn't he? He says Teofimo Lopez would have to travel. Why is he ranked higher than me? He'll be coming here, says O'Hara Davis, if they ever end up fighting. Here's a good one for you, Andy. Danny Young threw this one in. Origin Rumble. No Limits pay-per-view. They love a pay-per-view over in Australia. Look at him on the right-hand side. Origin Rumble. Paul Gallen is fighting Justin Hodges and Ben Hanant on the same night in September the 15th. Nissan Arena, Brisbane. Pay-per-view, no less.
Me, man. Fuck off. I mean,
look at the state of him on the right-hand side.
I thought that Paul Gallen had retired for boxing. Not even though he was much of a boy, but fuck his size of that guy.
How is this? What are they doing?
I was going to say, what are they doing? Like, is it a tag team or something like that? So, like if Hodges gets banged or stunned early on, he's going to tag in Ben Hannon to come in, and then can they double team him or something like that? Or what's going to work?
Hey, come on now.
Jessica Kamara
comments on this podcast.
Jessica Kamara says it. Paul Gallen does it.
Exactly. Well said, Matty.
Okay.
Exactly 2 fights in one night.
Guys into the ring together like the Bushwhackers, are they?
And what happens?
Dude, I love Luke and Butch. Great reference.
What happens if Gallen gets banged out in the first fight as well? What are they going to do?
You have to wake him up because he has a contract.
Yeah. You've look, fucking the No Limit promoter waving a piece of paper around. We've got a contract. Get him back in. He's fucking crippled on a hospital bed with oxygen. Right, we're getting him back out now. Ben fucking Hannon's there.
We've got to report on this one, Ozzy. Remember this September the 15th, man. We've got to.
Absolutely.
Be like Mick Foley coming off the gurney after the Undertaker threw him off the cage.
Are we actually going to watch this shit, man?
We're going to watch this. Come on.
I am, definitely.
The commentary is.
I tell you what,
the commentary is going to be fucking unreal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I wonder what he'll do. I wonder if Hannon will get frustrated and interrupt the fight. Halfway, midway through the fifth round. Oh, I tell you what,
fight them both. Yeah.
It'll be.
He's got to need a priest.
There's one man who could even it up, though, isn't there? In Gallen's corner, Father Dave. Father Dave. Let's get him on the scene. Make it. Tag team, Paul Gallen, Father Dave. He can get that dodgy book out what he wrote and stuff like that. Get him involved.
You should read his book. He's onto something, mate.
Steve, I've WhatsApped you the front and back cover as well, by the way, of the Father Dave book.
Oh, have you? Brilliant. Yeah, did you see Ryan Deal's Photoshop during the week? He photoshopped one of my books and turned it into Irish boy band review. With all the characters they are.
Good God.
Whoever left a comment as well, by the way, with the fucking Father Dave quote for the podcast. I've listened to your podcast, mate. Whoever that was.
I think you're onto something.
I think you will be
that
onto
was
something.
Ryan as well. Yeah, that was
good man, Ryan. Yeah, good stuff.
He's class today. There's the boys on there. Some brilliant photoshopping work from Ryan as usual. We shall move on. Final few here. Ben Russell has nominated Chazza, West Ham United. He said, people moaned when DAZN didn't do pay-per-view. They moan when they do. They moan about anything. I don't remember anyone moaning that DAZN weren't doing pay-per-view, but apparently Chaz seems to remember that. And then Brian King has nominated the little maggot himself, Everything Boxing. So ignorant. Hearn made more money from his Saudi percentage than he ever would have if the fight landed on DAZN. DAZN are now doing pay-per-views. Bad for fans, more money for Eddie Hearn. He's having a terrific year. The little maggot Andy, as you refer to.
I want to hear Ozzy's take on that, actually.
All the guys that are having a great year, fucking Klaus Schwab, Eddie Hearn.
Bring back Bill Cooper, Rob. Oh dear, yeah, Eddie's doing well. He's doing bits. Like father, like son, DAZN boxing. Which son of a legend will have the greatest career? I think we've gone through that one. Better Q nominated the cat. He says, Eddie, Frank, Joe, DAZN tagged in. You deserve an award. The boxing this year has been unmatched, and you're only starting. Well, I got news for you. I think they might be finishing sooner than you think, to be honest. But DAZN are doing their best there. Andy, you sent one in to me. Is that Murat Gassiev?
Look at the size of him, man. Look at his
I thought it was Kurtz's size.
Thought it was Avni Yildirim.
Look at his stubble, man. His stubble's got alopecia. Fucking hell. Look at him. So, he's washed. He's 28. And the thing is, when I tweeted that out, right, every response I got, we're all saying, he's 28, by the way.
He's been 28 for about the last 5 years, him.
Fuck me, man. Washed. That's the definition of washed.
He looks in a bad way. Does he even fight anymore?
Nah,
he's in the gym there, too, apparently.
He's the biggest myth in boxing, isn't he? Well, wait till he gets up to heavyweight, he'll be banging everybody.
Yeah.
Well, he's there.
Good point. Good point. He finally made it. Yeah, he doesn't look great.
Size him, honestly, and I just thought really the alopecia really kind of set it off with the baldness and that as well. So, but look at his chest and his back and his shoulders, man. He looks like a fucking coconut.
Must be something going on behind the scenes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they as well. I mean, I think they all made good money in that Super Series and that. So
I think
he's
that's being shot
probably...
behind the scenes, Steve. That's
I'm not suggesting anything, Rob. I'm just putting the questions here. That's all I'm here for. Just a mere intermediary on a Sunday evening. It looks like Rocco. Do you remember Rocco, Andy, who used to come on? The taxi driver. There's a name from the past for you.
I remember him, mate.
He looks.
Didn't the fucking other pod used to get him on to tell like sex stories and all on the pod, like of his taxi adventures, didn't they?
Quite possibly.
That's it. I remember him, real cocky accent. Yeah, fucking hell.
He looks like some of the Slavic guys doing security and shit in a Serbian film. Like he could definitely play that role. Like honestly, it kind of looks like the guy who took a cock to the eye. Like he really does. He looks like the guy that took the cock to the eye, which is one of the greatest deaths in all horror movies, by the way.
That's happened to us all. Final one for me. I'm not sure what was going on here with Eubank Jr. turning up looking like a suitcase at the press conference, but I suppose that's fashion. Them young'uns, Matty, that's what passes for fashion.
He's turned up like a fucking briefcase, man. What the?
I know.
It looks like fucking. It looks like the GQ version of what you'd wear to go on a fucking hike with Bear Grylls.
I wouldn't mind as well, right, by the way. It was like 35 degrees outside that day, and he's walked in a fucking leather jacket, which resembles a fucking fancy suitcase, and he's got that on. He was sweating on stage.
I'll burn that weight.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's what he's doing. Yeah, he's literally run away. And I'm thinking, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's fucking bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
Did he perhaps have a Carl Froch moment and have a Ryanair flight soon after, and he didn't want to fucking pay the luggage?
I've just had a look now at how much that leather jacket. It's coming up here as 10 grand. This fucking 10 grand. And, mate, it's terrible.
And it's 40 degrees Celsius outside as well.
Yeah, come with 3 grenades in that big left pocket.
Ben doesn't look much better, does he?
I'm being deadly serious. That one on his on the bigger box, has that got a padlock on it?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah,
it's got a fucking padlock on it. Like fuck me, like it literally is a suitcase.
Like
it just
a
needs one of those.
case, isn't
it?
He took it
It
off.
just needs one of those. It just needs one of those plane tags now, doesn't he? Saying destination and where he's fucking going.
Pocket, that's where he keeps his journal, is it?
Yeah.
Are you shocked when his dad is walking down the fucking staircase wearing underwear and dressed like a gay prostitute everywhere he goes?
Yeah,
like,
that's
is
true,
the apple
yeah.
falling that far from the fucking tree?
He took it off when people kept coming up and asking for a loan of a pencil sharpener. He just took it off then.
First day at school, isn't it? That? Oh dear, there you go.
Where I keep my pencils.
We've got a couple of videos as well. I uploaded them during the week, so I can't actually remember what they are, but we'll find out all together. First of all, I've got this saved as Snide Eddie Hearn, so no doubt it's going to be up our street. Let's have a listen to Snide Eddie Hearn.
So I'm going nowhere. I'm going to get, on everyone's nerves, and I'm not going to stop, but I'm going to make boxing great again in America.
How'd that work out?
I think that needs to be replayed again, by the way. Even ahead.
Someone's getting raided next week.
Did I say America, mate? I meant Saudi Arabia. I meant Australia,
mate. I meant Australia.
Oh, good old Eddie coming in peace. That's Snide Eddie. Also, Clarissa the Goat Shield. Someone asked me to play this with Feeding the Ducks over the top of it, so I'm going to try and do the best for you that I can. So here's Clarissa. Where's Feeding the Ducks here? Let's see if we can make this work. So here's
money. Let's get to that 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 A. Let's get to that money. 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 Let's get to that A. New shoes on my feet, but they don't got a crease. I'm talking in class while I'm trying to teach. Just moved to Atlanta, so I need a peach. I'm speaking that real, so they told me to preach. Shell drop, I'm finna lean in my seat. I'm pulling up until I know it is green. Mob ties, he can get hit with red.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that song was, but there's the copyright for this week at least. Or
Yeah,
we weren't going to get one.
Carissa Shields' arse is going to end up getting us pulled off YouTube finally.
Yeah, she definitely got cakes. That's for fucking sure.
Wouldn't mind your head cracked in there, mate.
Ozzy, can you imagine if she had as much hair as she had ass?
What are you setting him off on that one for?
Move on.
Let's move on. I'm gonna I'm going to have to take Eubank off the screen. Right, that's all the ones I've got. Andy, you've sent in Gassiev plus a couple of others. Do you have anything else to add to this trawl?
Yeah, just one from Mauricio Suleiman, mate. Obviously, he had a phone call with Tyson Fury, who will just add into this one as well. He was confirmed his official retirement from boxing. He said he fully supported his decision, which would be a dream to retire undefeated as WBC champion. But I also believe I've given them until is that a week? I've given them, I think, until he's to make it official in writing. And they're going to be preparing a special farewell event for Tyson very, very soon. So I can just imagine the shitty belt they're going to create for this fucking pish.
Why is the head of the WBC sitting there with a Tyson Fury hat on his head like a big ring licker? He's there to run an supposedly neutral organisation in boxing that's supposed to oversee
non-profit, mate.
Non-profit fights. He's an absolute disgrace, as a wise man once said.
He's a fucking cloud chaser. A cloud chasing cunt, that man. Honestly, he's got to be front and bright in that motherfucker. Honestly, God, man.
Any others, Andy?
That's it, mate.
Good stuff. Ozzy, any from you, please?
Don't think so, no.
Who made a comment that was quite funny? Oh yeah, Michael Thompson. Clarissa built like a lowercase b. She's looking fine, Matty, and she as we're going to play. Any nominations, Matthew, to throw in?
I think I gave you guys that David Hay quote in the chat where he said that he could beat Wilder and Fury, I think he said. And I thought that was pretty quality considering his track record against taller fighters. And then I wish you would have uploaded it, Steve. I sent you guys that video. I sent you guys that like 500 or 600 person boxing match.
That would have thrown off, Matty. I think 600 people fighting in the car park, inciting violence. Case closed.
They just like go running and just start fucking punching each other. I'm like, who the fuck organizes this shit?
They do that in some European countries, don't they? With the hooligans, they kind of just let them fight it out in like fields away from the cities and stuff. That's not an unusual thing. Yeah,
I think that's actually kind of fair. Like, just
so they're not smashing up towns and stuff. It kind of makes sense in a strange way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a soccer riot. It's just taken away from the stadium, I guess.
No, good nomination. I thought I'd maybe not play that one to be on the safe side. Rob, any from you, please?
No, I just had something the Father Dave covers. That's all. Just thought to be worth a look at. But he already got his award last week, so no, I've nothing new in the world of boxing this week. Sorry.
Whoa.
Everything to do with the fucking Ben Eubank fight stinks. It's fucking horrible. Eubank was sitting there with a big grin on his face looking at him when he actually saw the size difference, and he's like, I'm getting paid to beat up this midget. Like, fuck me, I have hit the fucking jackpot here. Like, I haven't had to fucking fight for a real world title and get exposed again. I'm going to go in here, do a Roy Jones impression for a few years, and when I get him in trouble, I'm going to bash him up. And I tell you what, everybody celebrating this fight has overlooked the fact that, you know, it's the generational grudge match, right? Based on a legacy of two lads who fucking left people in fucking very bad states in the ring, and another one of the sons has already left somebody fucking rode off and in a very bad health after fucking pulverizing them in the ring. And the board are going ahead and sanctioning a fight with a fighter who's a 160 guy who's operated for fucking practically 2 years at 168 before that, down at a lower weight to cut him down, and then they're letting a fucking welterweight who's never even fought a top 10 guy, I don't think, in his own division, go up and fight a fella who's been fighting in the Super 6. It's a fucking out. And if anything fucking happens to fucking Conor Benn, man, like, I'm telling you what, like, the blood of fucking is on major promoters' hands, and I don't want to get too fucking, you know, this is Belly of the Week and all that, but everything about that fucking fight, the build up and people talking about, you know, Ben has dog in him and all, this is going to be an embarrassing spectacle for boxing. So anyone that's involved in that one, and Fury as well, man, like, I'm a massive Tyson Fury fan as a fighter, but he just makes up shit on the fly for the sake of saying it. You don't think fucking Isaac Lowe's training Tyson Fury for a third Derek Chisora fight? Chisora himself was saying he's not fucking, he made me an offer or something for $2 million, then he pissed off. Frank Warren never heard a word about it. Bob Arum never heard a word about it. He's just on fucking Instagram talking shit, keeping himself in the spotlight. If he's not going to fucking fight again, retire then. If you're going to retire, if not, fight the winner of AJ Usyk. And if you're going to retire, go and retire and let Wilder become the WBC champion and get him back in the mix again, because that's what boxing needs if you're no longer around. But anyway, they're my ones.
Well said. Well said, Admiral Kelly. I can endorse that. Belly of the week. Let me quickly go over them then before we finish up, get our nominations, do all those good things. So we had Chris of the Goat Shields, we had Snidey Hearn, and we had Eubank talking. I don't know what he was on about, to be honest with you. Also, we had Marcos Villegas. We had Isaac Lowe, Tyson Fury, as Rob just mentioned there. We had KSI and all of this whole fuss going on the Zone pay-per-view. We had Adam Abramovich and Scott Nichols. We had Ebony Bridges and Sohail Sadiq. We had Kugan Cassius and Tony Bellew. We had Mackenzie Kirchhoff. We had O'Hara Davis. We had the Australian fight. And we also had Ben Russell and Everything Boxing, the Zone again. Better Q nominating the Cat 123. We had Murat Gassiev looking rather portly. And the whole Chris Eubank, Conor Benn spectacle, including the suit itself, Andy. Not the strongest of weeks, but we've got quite a few funny ones thrown in there. Who are you going for?
I'm going to go for the Paul Gallen one, actually. Just like, again, this is just where boxing's at just now, and that just total gimmicks. Clearly, it's getting set up for him to try and win these two fights, if he's fighting two guys on the same night. Yeah, so Paul Gallen, whatever the fight promotion was it No Limits Boxing, whatever it was? So
yeah, the whole Australian debacle.
Yeah, them.
Good stuff, Andy.
Andy votes for Australia.
Australia. Yeah, we've upset them before. We have quite a lot of listeners in Australia. Shout out to them, not included.
Great bunch of lads.
They're great people. They're just different, man. They're just different.
They are indeed. Matty, who are you going for, please?
I think I have to go for Eubank Jr. and his Versace tactical leather urban vest.
Good nomination. Eubank getting one as well. For what it's worth, I'm going for the Aussies alongside Andy. That was a good nomination from Danny Young, a tag team. Who knows what's going on there? Aussie, who are you going for?
Yeah, the Aussie tag team and Paul Gallen, just unbelievable. I'm actually looking forward to watching it. It's just the comedy. I mean, look at the size of fucking, I assume Ben Hannon, the fat bastard. Look at the fucking size of him.
Absolute disgrace.
Oh, chippy tits.
Fucking is, mate. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, there is a big set of fucking chippy tits there as well.
Love that, man.
That's 3 for the Aussies. Looking forward to that. Who knows what's going to go down, Rob? Literally, who knows what's going to go down? Who are you going for, Belly of the Week?
It has to be them as well. But is there nobody in boxing able to make a flyer? Look at the fucking state of that. Like.
Origin Rumble, Rob.
Origin Rumble, man, in Australia. Fuck me, man. Yeah, we'll go for that one for the crack. Why not? Like.
They are Paul Gallen, Origin Rumble. No Limits, Australia. You can come on the pod and explain if you want. Congratulations. You're the Belly of the Week winners for episode 487. And that is where we shall leave it for this evening. We've had a laugh as always. Thank you to everybody who's been in the chat. You've been great fun, and the panel as well. Rapping Rob Kelly's been with us, so has Matty, Ozzy, Andy. Smido was on earlier as well. Shout out to our super chatters. We had Charlie Burley TBE, Liam Wynn, Joe Thackeray, Michael Thompson, A. Wakari, and Joe Burns threw in some money as well. They're all thrown into the pot for super chatters and patrons. If you have contributed during the month of August or you are a Patreon member, come the 31st of August, you'll be going into the draw for our signed Andy Lee glove. So if you want to win that, get on board. Also, we are going to do a post-fight pod next weekend for AJ USYK-2. That should be fun, so listen into that. And this Thursday evening, if you're in the Patreon, you can join the NUTHOUSE chat and have your say. We might put that out on the main feed as well, if I can be bothered. We might not. Thanks to everybody who's been on tonight. I've been Steve Wellings. Matty will be in the hot seat next week for episode 488. Have a good time. Take care of yourselves. Shout out to Jason, Chukwu, and all the others. We'll catch you all again, and bye.
Woo!
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to Adam move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch.
I've never met a fucking wank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't. 7-year ain't.
I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing, Sam. It's as simple as that.